Chapter 2597. Heavenly Venerate Zi Zhao's words made Ji Tianqing reveal a look of surprise. Many of Purple Cloud Planet's ancestors have ascended to the God realm. Even now, Purple Cloud Planet still maintains contact with our ancestors' gods. He recalled his experience on the Sirius star before arriving at Purple Cloud Planet. The Sirius tribe had also used a similar method to pray for protection from the ancestors of the upper realm and received a baptism of divine power and a heavenly god-level precept. It was that ceremony that allowed Ji Tianqing to obtain the space precept. However, he did not expect Purple Cloud Planet to be like the Sirius star and have the protection of their ancestors' gods. Heavenly Venerable Zi Zhao's remnant soul sighed and said faintly, "Indeed, there is still contact. Unfortunately, the mortal world and the God realm cannot communicate. Even though our ancestors knew that Purple Cloud Planet was in trouble, they were powerless to save us. They could only send down divine power to help us resist the enemy. If our ancestors could descend on Purple Cloud Planet, even if it was just a soul clone, it would be enough to annihilate the million-strong army." Towards the end, Heavenly Venerable Zi Zhao's remnant soul became weaker and weaker, and his voice became softer and softer. When his voice was almost inaudible, Ji Tianqing realized that his remnant soul had already dissipated. The former master of Purple Cloud Planet had been annihilated and truly vanished into thin air. The purple light on the stone sculpture also disappeared, becoming dull and lifeless. Ji Tianqing stood where he was and stared at the stone sculpture for a long time, somewhat lost. Even though he had only interacted with Heavenly Venerable Zi Zhao for a short hour and had only chatted for a while. However, he felt that Heavenly Venerable Zi Zhao was a worthy friend and also a wise senior. Unfortunately, in order to protect Purple Cloud Planet, Heavenly Venerable Zi Zhao had died under the siege of Martial Nan and the Heaven-defying fleet. Even if he was a level 9 true god powerhouse, he could not withstand the siege of Martial Nan and hundreds of martial gods, as well as the bombardment of thousands of battleships. In addition, Ji Tianqing's conversation with Heavenly Venerable Zi Zhao had also enlightened him. It even made him recall many past events. After a quarter of an hour, Ji Tianqing collected his chaotic thoughts and reached out to hold 2 dazzling balls of light. Although the divine pill and the law of light were only the size of a fist, they were as heavy as a mountain. Ji Tianqing sat cross-legged on the ground and began to circulate his energy to refine the light purple ball of divine power. Shwa! The divine pill floated in front of him and began to spin. Strands of 5-colored divine power peeled off from the divine pellet and entered Ji Tianqing's body. As the godly power entered his body, Ji Tianqing felt as if his entire body was being pricked by needles. He couldn't help but shudder. It really is the divine energy of a heavenly god. No wonder Heavenly Venerable Purple Firmament and the many divine masters could only refine 70% of it and still have such majestic divine power left. Clearly, the divine energy of a heavenly god was too pure and powerful. Even if Ji Tianqing was a true god powerhouse, in the process of refining divine power, he also had to endure tremendous pain. So, it was obvious how terrifying the pain an ordinary martial god would have to endure when refining divine energy. It was probably similar to being pierced by thousands of arrows and hacked into pieces, right? Of course, Ji Tianqing's adaptability was extremely strong. In just a few hours, his special divine body had adapted to the incomparably pure heavenly god power. The pain lessened a lot and was no longer as painful as being pricked by needles. He also increased the speed of absorbing divine power. Strands of 5-colored divine power circulated in his body. After 3 cycles, it was completely refined by him. The size of the divine pellet did not shrink, but his divine power was rapidly increasing and becoming more vigorous. In just half a month, his power had increased by 10%. In 8 months, his power had doubled. And at this time, the fist-sized divine pellet had only shrunk by 30%. Such an outcome made him secretly shocked. With my special divine body, I can contain 8 times more divine power than an ordinary true god. I've only refined 30% of this divine pellet, and my power has doubled. If I refine the entire divine pellet, won't I have a chance of reaching level 3 true God? Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing became more excited and focused on refining divine power. Time passed quietly. Unknowingly, 2 years had passed. The fist-sized divine pellet was finally completely refined by Ji Tianqing. The result was as he expected. His power increased by around 3 times. He was only a step away from level 3 true God. But he did not feel regretful. After a short rest, he picked up that ball of Earth Law again and started to circulate and refine. Earth Law sounded very ordinary. It seemed like it was the same as the 5 elements laws, something that all true gods could condense and control. But in reality, it was not so. The law of Earth was a genuine heavenly god-grade law. Once Ji Tianqing grasped this law, he would be hailed as the Lord of the Earth, possessing all kinds of wonders. As long as there was land, mountains, and metal, he was an omnipotent god. In terms of defense, he could transform into 100,000 miles of land. No true god could break through. In terms of attack, he could gather the majestic divine power of 100,000 miles of mountains and rivers, suppressing all strong enemies. Apart from this, he could also travel 10,000 miles in an instant on land. In fact, he could even cross an entire continent in a day. This was a divine might that ordinary true gods absolutely did not dare to imagine. Of course, the stronger Ji Tianqing's strength, the stronger the power of Earth Law would be too. If his strength was weak, even if he grasped this law, it would also be hard to unleash its miraculous effects. Inside the dark hall, it was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. The golden ball of light rotated slowly, continuously releasing wisps of golden light, tunneling into Ji Tianqing's body. His eyes were tightly shut, fully focused on circulating and refining the Earth Law, completely forgetting everything outside his body. 1 month, 3 months, half a year passed, the golden ball of light shrunk at a very slow speed. But Ji Tianqing's strength grew at an obvious speed. His skill also became deeper. 2 years later, he refined half of the golden ball of light. His strength also reached the limits of level 2 true God realm. After 2 months of assaulting, he finally broke through to level 3 true God realm successfully. But the Earth Law had not been refined yet. He could only continue cultivating. A full 4 years later, the golden ball of light completely dissipated. The complete Earth Law was completely refined by Ji Tianqing. At this point, he had already been in closed seclusion cultivation in the Purple Firmament Divine Palace for as long as 6 years. He circulated and regulated his breathing for a month. Only after his strength realm stabilized did he end cultivation. Swoosh! When he opened his eyes and stood up from the ground, his entire body emitted a formless divine might, immediately engulfing the entire hall. His aura changed slightly, gaining some aura of a peerless powerhouse that was as deep as the abyss and as lofty as a mountain, and also some steady aura that was heavy like a mountain. Especially that pair of eyes that were as deep as the starry sky, became even more mysterious. In the pupil of his left eye, one could vaguely see the wonderful scene of thousands of spaces interweaving and changing. And in the pupil of his right eye, there was a vast territory of 1,000,000 miles, thousands of towering mountain peaks that towered to the sky, fully displaying a boundless and majestic aura. Space and earth, 2 celestial god laws, made him even more unfathomable. Chapter 2598. Ji Tianqing stood in the soul-calming hall. His divine sense spread out, penetrating the darkness and enveloping the entire hall. The divine pill and Earth Law were both refined. It was also time for him to leave. Very soon, he discovered a secret door in the corner of the hall. 1,000 feet tall gray stone giant door, the surface was carved with ancient and abstract reliefs. It was even covered in a layer of dust. Ji Tianqing teleported in front of the stone door and observed carefully. Looks like behind this stone door is the passageway that leads to the Divine Palace's 5th level. Logically speaking, Empyrean Purple Firmament definitely knows about the existence of this secret door. But, looking at the traces of the secret door, it has already not been opened for several tens of thousands of years. Could it be that Empyrean Purple Firmament has never been to the Divine Palace's 5th level before? Ji Tianqing's observation was meticulous. From these insignificant clues, he was able to analyze many things. The corners of his mouth curled into a hint of an interested smile and started casting the divine pupil mystic art, carefully observing the grey stone giant door. The result was just as he expected. There was an array formation seal on the grey stone giant door. Furthermore, it was a celestial deity level grand array. Clearly, it's the previous Empyrean Purple Firmament's handiwork again. Empyrean Purple Firmament only had true God realm strength and could not crack this celestial deity formation. He naturally could not enter the 5th level. This thought flashed across Ji Tianqing's mind, and he became even more focused on observing the celestial deity formation. Time passed silently. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. The sealing divine formation on this secret door was even more profound and complicated than the array formation at the Soul Calming Hall's entrance. Ji Tianqing used a full half a month before figuring out the grand array's structure and network. The foundation and structure of this grand array was actually evolved from the Thousand Illusions Astral Spirit Grand Array. The previous Empyrean Purple Firmament actually grasped this divine formation and even superimposed even more complicated changes on this foundation. Interesting. Looks like that Empyrean Purple Firmament is proficient in the Array Tao and has rather deep attainments. Ji Tianqing muttered to himself, the corners of his mouth curling into a smile. Unfortunately, he only has celestial deity realm cultivation in the end. No matter how profound his Array Tao attainments are, there are also limitations. As he said, Ji Tianqing formed seals with both hands, firing out streak after streak of 5-color divine light, flying into the grey stone giant door. Swish! Swish! Countless 5-color divine lights split into strands of divine power that were as thick as a strand of hair. They entered the veins of the grand sealing formation and started to crack it. This sealing divine formation had a total of 120 million variations. It was truly unparalleled. However, this was not a problem for Ji Tianqing. In the past, as a peerless deity king, he had personally set up and deciphered many king-grade divine formations, each of which had a total of 1.08 billion variations. That was almost the pinnacle of Array Tao in the world, the limit of divine arrays. 3 days, 5 days, 10 days passed. Ji Tianqing continued to cast spells without stopping for even a moment. Half a year had passed. He had used up a huge amount of divine power and was mentally exhausted. His face was a little pale. Finally, the sealing divine formation on the grey stone door was successfully broken by him. Shwa! A dense purple light lit up on the grey stone door, forming a barrier that was 1,000 feet tall. A gap appeared in the middle of the barrier, forming a door that was more than 10 feet tall. Ji Tianqing stopped and let out a long breath. His figure flashed through the door of light and flew into the darkness. Behind the huge grey stone door was not a dark passage as he had expected. Instead, it was endless darkness. The darkness separated the Soul Calming Palace from the 5th level of the Divine Palace. In short, the 5th level of the Divine Palace was a special space. Shwa! In the next moment, with a flash of golden light, Ji Tianqing passed through the darkness and entered the 5th level of the Divine Palace. After stepping on solid ground, he released his divine sense and scanned the surroundings. The 5th level of the Divine Palace was also a spacious, dark, and cold hall. At first glance, it was no different from the 4th level of the Soul Calming Palace. The ground beneath his feet was grey, and the walls around him were grey, covered in abstract carvings. Ji Tianqing glanced at them a few times. He could roughly tell that the scenes depicted in those relief sculptures were scenes of gods eradicating evil spirits and all living beings worshipping gods. His gaze looked toward the center of the hall, landing on a 1,000-feet-tall altar. The altar made of gray stone had experienced tens of thousands of years of ancient time, leaving behind mottled traces of time erosion. It was even covered in a layer of dust. At the top of the altar, there was also a tall statue. It was a grayish-brown stone statue that was 30 feet tall. It was carved of a powerhouse with a muscular body and a strange appearance. That powerhouse's body was similar to a human's, but he had 2 abnormally thick legs, a pair of enormous feet that were as large as millstones. And his upper body actually had a pair of blade-like wings and 4 tentacle-like arms. On his long and narrow head like a date pit, there were 3 half-black, half-white eyes. Although this powerhouse's body and appearance were strange, there was not the slightest bit of evil aura. Instead, it was even more mysterious and majestic. Ji Tianqing sized up this statue a few times, then muttered in a low voice, "Looks like this is also a soul-calming palace." According to previous experience, this statue should be the previous heavenly master Purple Firmament, an enlightened master who died in the ancient times. It was he who found this Purple Firmament cave in the core of Purple Firmament planet and built the Purple Firmament Palace. I wonder if he left a wisp of remnant soul in this statue. As he spoke, Ji Tianqing released his divine sense to explore the statue. However, after his divine sense enveloped the statue, he did not find anything. He only felt an endless sense of coldness and deathly stillness. That statue was a piece of cold, lifeless god stone. Even the fluctuations of divine power were very weak. This result made Ji Tianqing somewhat disappointed and regretful. Sigh. Even if it was an enlightened master, even if it was a god stone with special effects, it could not preserve a wisp of remnant soul for tens of thousands of years. After all, the long and merciless years are the greatest enemy of all gods. Ji Tianqing muttered in a low voice, and his gaze suddenly fell on the hands of the gray stone statue. The statue stretched out 4 long and narrow arms. The long and narrow palm with 4 long fingers was actually holding a 2-meter-long silver stone pillar. Ji Tianqing focused his eyes and observed. Only then did he realize that the stone pillar was in the shape of a sharp shuttle, and it was somewhat broken and missing. Probably because it had been through too much time, the sharp shuttle had become a dark silver color. There was no luster to speak of, and it was also covered in dust. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing waved his hand and sent out a breeze, blowing away the dust on the shuttle. He saw that the seemingly crude dark silver shuttle was covered with ancient divine patterns and symbols. It's actually a divine artifact. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows, and his interest was immediately piqued. He waved his hand and sent out a golden light that wrapped around the dark silver shuttle. He pulled it out from the hands of the statue and pulled it in front of him. Then, he held the dark silver shuttle with both hands and observed it attentively. After observing it for about a quarter of an hour, he finally understood the function and grade of this dark silver-pointed shuttle. From the divine patterns on this divine artifact, it's actually a supreme-grade heavenly divine artifact, and it's related to stars. The previous heavenly venerable purple cloud was an enlightened master. Being able to refine a supreme-grade heavenly divine artifact was already the limit of his ability. This should be the work he was most satisfied with in his life. No wonder he still held it in his arms after his death. Let's call it the Heavenly Star Shuttle for now. End of chapter. This book from Chapter 2599. A heavenly divine artifact contained heavenly god-level laws and power. It had the power to destroy the world. It was almost impossible to see such a powerful divine artifact in the mortal world. Most of the heavenly divine artifacts in the world were passed down from the ancient times. Although the Heavenly Star Shuttle was of a high grade and was made of special materials, it was still a heavenly divine artifact. After all, it was a product of the ancient times and had a history of tens of thousands of years. After such a long time, it had become mottled and emitted an ancient aura. Even the heavenly star shuttle was not complete. There were a few cracks on the surface. However, to Ji Tianqing's delight, the heavenly star shuttle could still be used. When he channeled his divine power into the heavenly star shuttle immediately lit up with starlight and unleashed an unparalleled amount of power. The vast divine power wrapped around Ji Tianqing and formed a mysterious connection with the stars in the sky. It was about to take him away from the violet divine palace. At this critical moment, Ji Tianqing quickly withdrew his divine power and let go of the heavenly star shuttle. Swoosh! The dazzling starlight immediately retracted and retreated into the heavenly star shuttle. Ji Tianqing held the heavenly star shuttle and murmured with satisfaction, "It is indeed a supreme heavenly divine artifact. After tens of thousands of years, it can still be used. Moreover, this heavenly star shuttle can form a connection with the stars in the sky and almost took me away from the violet divine palace to the stars in the sky. From the purple cloud planet to another planet, this divine artifact could actually travel across planets. Interesting." Ji Tianqing was very clear that only divine Lord Realm powerhouses were able to grasp the secret art of jumping between stars. This kind of divine power that could allow one to cross billions of miles in an instant was definitely the dream of countless divine lords. Even though Ji Tianqing's divine soul memory had mastered this kind of divine power, his strength had not reached the divine Lord Realm, so he could not use it. With the heavenly star shuttle, even if I only have the strength of a true immortal, I can travel through the void and star areas. Ji Tianqing smiled with satisfaction and put away the heavenly star shuttle. He walked around the tall statue and carefully observed it twice. However, both the altar and the statue were cold and still. There was nothing unusual about them. Ji Tianqing searched the hall for a while, but didn't find anything of value. It looks like there's nothing else in this soul-calming hall besides this heavenly star shuttle. The fourth and fifth levels were both soul-calming halls, storing the statues of the two purple firmament heavenly venerables. What was the sixth level of the divine palace? They wanted to go outside to practice or search for treasures. Therefore, these young martial gods were scattered all over the secret zone. If it wasn't for Ji Tianqing's meticulous mind, who had checked the entire secret realm thoroughly, these fellows might really have escaped from death. However, now, Ji Tianqing had encountered them. Their fate was self-evident. After dealing with those young martial gods, Ji Tianqing left the violet divine palace. Swoosh! With a flash of light, he returned to the sky above the whirlpool of clouds. He wasn't in a hurry to leave. He stared at the whirlpool of clouds and muttered to himself, "It would be a pity if such a secret zone with abundant divine power and an excellent environment was taken over by others." Therefore, he formed a divine seal with both hands and began to set up a divine array to seal the entrance of the violet divine palace. He first spent 10 days to set up a heavenly god-level sealing array to seal the entrance. Then, he set up a heavenly god-level 10-directional maze and superimposed it on the entrance. The 10-directional maze could create illusions to cover the whirlpool of clouds so that no one would discover it. Even if an expert saw some clues, as long as he got close to the array, he would be trapped by the array and it would be difficult to find the real entrance. However, this was only the first threshold. Even if some expert managed to break the 10-directional maze formation, there was still a more complicated and mysterious sealing formation that sealed the entrance firmly. Therefore, other than Ji Tianqing, no one could enter the violet divine palace unless a heavenly god descended. After settling this matter, Ji Tianqing left with satisfaction. He flew over the sea of clouds at lightning speed and rushed toward the Zero mainland. On the way, he took out a communication jade slip and sent a message to White Dragon to ask about the situation in the few mainlands. He had been cultivating in the Violet Divine Palace for 6 years. Only 3 years had passed in the outside world. In these 3 years, White Dragon had been moving around the few mainlands with Lan Kuan, Qianyu, and Black Dragon, hunting down the remaining members of the heaven-defying clan. They knew the situation in the few mainlands best. About an hour later, Ji Tianqing received White Dragon's reply. After reading the contents of the communication jade slip, Ji Tianqing was finally relieved and smiled with relief. Chapter 2600. Bai Long sent a message to Ji Tianqing to report a piece of good news. Ever since the heaven-punishing divine palace had been destroyed and the southern marshal had died, the heaven punishers on the 5 continents had fallen apart. Many captains piloted their battleships and led their warriors away from Purple Cloud Planet in a hurry. Many heaven punishers who could not escape in time had been killed by the powerhouses of the various continents. Of course, countless heaven punishers had fled in all directions, hiding in desolate areas or in dangerous places where no one would go. In the past 3 years, Bai Long and the 3 divine beasts had been running around. They had searched the 5 continents one by one and used their special skills to find many heaven punishers. They had killed them all. After 3 years of searching, they had traveled to the 5 continents and killed more than 300,000 heaven punishers. Now that the heaven punishers had been eliminated, peace had returned to the 5 continents. Although there were a few heaven punishers who might be hiding somewhere and had not been discovered, it was not a big deal. However, this was not a big deal. An individual heaven destroyer elite would not be able to cause much trouble. After the 5 continents had returned to peace, the various tribes and forces began to fight. Empires sprang up one after another like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. More than 10 martial god realm powerhouses had conquered the various empires and built many kingdoms. The power structure of the 5 continents was reshuffling, and a new order was being born. At the end of the message, Bai Long asked Ji Tianqing if he was interested in controlling the Purple Cloud Planet. As long as he made a call, the kingdoms of the 5 continents would respond. At that time, Ji Tianqing would be the guardian of the Purple Cloud Planet and the planet lord with the highest status. After reading the message, Ji Tianqing smirked and replied to the White Dragon. "What planet lord? Do I look like someone who cares about a title? Don't waste time. Gather at the 0 continent as soon as possible. I'll meet up with you and bring you away from the Purple Cloud Planet to the 5 Elements world. This time on the Purple Cloud Star, I experienced some things that gave me a lot of inspiration. I'm sure that the 5 Elements world is extraordinary and it hides an earth-shattering secret. Little White, do you want to unravel this shocking mystery with me?" Ji Tianqing sealed these words in a communication jade slip and sent it out with a wave of his hand. Swish! The jade slip flew up into the sky, turned into a beam of light, and disappeared. Ji Tianqing also increased his speed and headed straight for the 0 mainland. 3 days later, Ji Tianqing arrived at the 0 mainland. In the middle of the continent, there was a huge lake with a radius of 200,000 miles. It was called the Inland Sea. Ji Tianqing and the White Dragon agreed to meet in the Inland Sea. It was noon and the sun was shining brightly. On the surface of the endless lake, the ripples were clear and crystalline. In the air above the lake, there were 3 divine beasts that were as huge as mountains. The one in the middle was a giant kun that was 20,000 feet long and completely blue in color. On the left was a 3,000 feet long black dragon, and on the right was an ice blue heavenly fox that was as large as a mountain. A handsome and devilishly handsome youth in white was standing on the head of Lan Kuan, looking into the distance. At this moment, a golden stream of light streaked across the sky and landed above the lake. Swoosh! After the golden light faded, a white-robed youth appeared. It was Ji Tianqing. Seeing his arrival, the White Dragon and the 3 divine beasts welcomed him with joy. Disciple greets master. The White Dragon flew to Ji Tianqing and stood in front of him, bowing respectfully. Get up. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly. The White Dragon looked at him excitedly and asked impatiently, Master, you said in the message that you would bring me to unravel the shocking mystery of the 5 Elements world. What kind of secret is it? What did you experience in the Purple Firmament Divine Palace? Hee hee. I knew you would be interested. Ji Tianqing chuckled and took out the Tianqing battleship. Let's get on the battleship first. We'll talk as we go. The dark and cold battleship was 20,000 feet long and suspended in the sky. Ji Tianqing stepped in first, followed by the white dragon. Lan Kuan, Qian Yu, and the black dragon shrunk their bodies and flew into the battleship one after another. After the battleship's cabin door closed, the white dragon drove the battleship and flew into the sky as fast as an aurora. At this time, Ji Tianqing told them in detail what had happened earlier. The white dragon and the three divine beasts listened carefully. After half an hour, Ji Tianqing finished telling them what had happened. The white dragon and the three divine beasts were deep in thought and vaguely understood something. After a moment of silence, the white dragon said in a serious tone, Lord Purple Firmament said that it was impossible for an enlightened master to appear in the mortal world. Not only in the Purple Firmament galaxy, but also in other galaxies. He felt that this was the restriction of the heavenly law, and I also felt that it was reasonable. However, the previous Lord Purple Firmament was an enlightened master. Could it be that there was no restriction of the heavenly law in ancient times? Qian Yu's eyes widened and said in a strange tone, there was no restriction of the heavenly law in ancient times, but there is now. Could it be that the heavenly law can be changed? Isn't this too unbelievable? The black dragon muttered in a low, muffled voice, what exactly is the heavenly law? Ji Tianqing said with a solemn expression, heavenly law, is not a thing. I didn't understand this problem in my previous life either. Lan Kuan followed up and said, if the heavenly law really had a change, then it was absolutely an earth-shaking major event that happened. The white dragon said rather interestedly, this is just one of the problems. Whether the heavenly law had a change or not, why did it change, we have to study it carefully. Another problem is that in the five elements world in ancient times, a large number of enlightened masters and divine lords appeared before, and even divine kings. However, the strongest person in the Purple Firmament galaxy was only one enlightened master. There was no divine lord or divine king at all. Even in other mortal worlds, there was no divine spirit above enlightened master. This shows that the five elements world is very special, different from ordinary mortal worlds. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said, that's right, the white dragon, you hit the nail on the head. Think about it, where do enlightened masters, divine lords, and divine kings live? The white dragon replied without hesitation, Master, is there still a need to ask? Of course it's in the dragon realm and the divine realm. Ji Tianqing asked again, then do you understand why these divine spirits can only live in the dragon realm and the divine realm? The white dragon thought for a moment and replied with a face full of certainty, that's because enlightened masters, divine lords, and divine kings are too powerful. Only the dragon realm and the divine realm are high-level planes, near eternal worlds, can accommodate so many powerful divine spirits. If it was in the mortal world, a divine lord could destroy an entire planet. When a divine king powerhouse comes, one punch can destroy a world. Ji Tianqing revealed an unfathomable smile and said in a playful tone, but in ancient times, many enlightened masters, divine lords, and divine kings also appeared in the five elements world. There was even a great war between the divine spirits in the five elements world. Why was this planet not destroyed and still exists until now? Hearing this, the white dragon and the three divine beasts were stunned for a moment, and then came to a realization. End of this chapter. Chapter 2601. Master, I get it now. Bai Long was suddenly enlightened. He was excited and his eyes were shining. Lan Kuan, Qian Yu, and Black Dragon also looked at Ji Tianqing. They were so excited that their blood was boiling. Old Ji, you're really amazing. You can even think of this. This is unbelievable. It's really a shocking mystery. If this is true, then it's definitely a fantastic story that will shock the entire universe. Bai Long and the three divine beasts did not say anything. Because Ji Tianqing's reminder to such an extent, the answer was already clear. Facing Bai Long and the three divine beasts' gazes, Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "Before this, I've been thinking about bringing Yao Yao and Ku to the divine realm when they break through to the true God realm. However, we've encountered such an interesting thing and come into contact with this shocking secret. I've decided not to ascend for the time being. Let's solve the mystery first." Bai Long quickly nodded and said with anticipation, "Master, I agree with your decision very much. Whether it's in our previous life or this life, we've never encountered such an exciting thing. If we can't solve the mystery, we'll regret it for the rest of our lives." Xian Yu also quickly said, "Old Ji, what's so fun about the divine realm? Let's study the five elements world first." Black Dragon said in a low voice, "Anyway, I'll follow Old Ji. I'll follow his decision." Lon Kun was silent. Its opinion was not important anyway. Ji Tianqing continued, "Since you've all agreed to this, we'll start investigating immediately after we return to the Five Elements world. Purple Heaven Cave is a secret realm and also an alternate dimension. However, it exists in the core of Purple Heaven planet. This has also inspired me. Let's investigate the Five Elements world from the core of the planet." Before he could finish, a ray of light flew from the sky and entered Tianqing's battleship, landing in front of him. After the light dissipated, a palm-sized black jade slip appeared. This was the communication jade slip that Ji Tianqing had refined with the source stone. It could cross stars and void. Could it be from Yao Yao or Ku? When he saw the origin stone jade slip, Ji Tianqing immediately thought of this possibility. However, when he took out the origin stone jade slip and used his divine sense to read its contents, his expression immediately changed and he frowned. This origin stone jade slip had been sent by God Lord Silvermoon. Before Ji Tianqing had parted ways with her, he had left her an origin stone jade slip as a reward. This was the only remaining connection between him and God Lord Silvermoon. God Lord Silvermoon would not use it unless it was absolutely necessary. The content of the jade slip was very short. There was only one sentence. "Tianqing, hurry up and leave Zixiao planet. The great Emperor of Heaven Punisher is here." God Lord Silvermoon's voice was rather hoarse, his tone extremely anxious and helpless. Ji Tianqing could tell that God Lord Silvermoon was injured. He gripped the origin stone jade slip in his hand, his eyebrows tightly knitted together as he muttered in a low voice, "After encountering such a crisis, she didn't send me a message asking for help. Instead, she reminded me to quickly escape, this foolish woman." The white dragon and the three divine beasts saw the strange look on his face and hurriedly asked questions. "Master, what happened? Old Ji, who is this foolish woman you speak of? Cuckoo. Old Ji, are we in trouble?" Ji Tianqing put away the origin stone jade slip and sternly said, "It's a message from God Lord Silvermoon. She encountered the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher and warned me to quickly escape." The white dragon and the three divine beasts instantly grimaced. "What? The great Emperor of Heaven Punisher is here? So quickly? Isn't the base of the Heaven Punisher race in another star zone?" Everyone was filled with astonishment. Their originally excited mood also became heavy. Ji Tianqing sternly ordered, "White Dragon, speed up into the void. I will send a message to God Lord Silvermoon and ask her about the situation and her location. I don't know if she's on Zixiao planet or has returned to the moon spirit race." The white dragon knew the gravity of the situation, and he also understood Ji Tianqing's personality. He would not sit around and watch, much less flee in panic. He hurriedly took control of the Tianqing warship and accelerated into outer space. Ji Tianqing also took out the origin stone jade slip and sent a message to God Lord Silvermoon. But 30 minutes later, he still did not receive a reply from God Lord Silvermoon. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. The Tianqing warship left Zixiao planet, passed through the dark violet barrier of divine light, and entered the dark and cold void. The void was silent. All one could see was endless darkness and the countless specks of starlight in its depths. Ji Tianqing and the white dragon observed for a few moments, but they did not notice anything strange. Thus, the white dragon piloted the Tianqing warship around Zixiao planet and began to investigate the situation in the void. About 4 hours later, Ji Tianqing suddenly saw a dark red pillar of light shining in the void in front of him. Countless huge dark red light pillars pierced through the void like arrows, fiercely bombarding the purple cloud star. The barrier of divine light that enveloped Zixiao planet trembled under the bombardment of these pillars of light, thousands of violet shards of light splashing out. They were too far away and in the void, so Ji Tianqing and the others could not hear the explosions. But he could guess that these dark red pillars of light were so powerful that they would quickly shatter the barrier of Zixiao planet. White Dragon, go faster. Ji Tianqing sternly ordered. Understood. The white dragon grimly used all his strength to unleash a divine art, pushing the Tianqing warship to its maximum speed. An hour later, the Tianqing warship had traveled 80,000 li and was gradually approaching those dark red pillars of light. Only now was Ji Tianqing able to clearly see that the source of these pillars of light was a savage black warship more than 10,000 meters long. This black warship was larger than all the other heaven-punishing warships. It looked like an ancient giant beast with a pair of long and sharp wings. It opened its bloody mouth, revealing 8 sharp fangs. The warship was covered in divine formation patterns, as well as many pictures and symbols of the heaven-punishing race. It exuded a powerful aura. Ji Tianqing stared at the warship and said, "This warship is larger than Marshal Jinnan's warship, and its grade is higher as well. It's at the heavenly god level. It looks like this is most likely the heaven-punishing emperor's warship. A heavenly god-level warship." The white dragon frowned and said sternly, "There is no heavenly god-level powerhouse in any of the major star zones and 3,000 worlds. Doesn't that mean that no one in the 3,000 worlds can stop that heavenly god-level warship?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "Of course. Otherwise, why would the heaven-punishing race have the ambition to conquer all 3,000 worlds?" The white dragon asked again, "Master, has the heaven-punishing emperor reached the heavenly god level?" Ji Tianqing shook his head and said sternly, "Of course not. The rules of heaven have restrictions. Even if the heaven-punishing race is protected by the gods, they cannot change the rules of heaven." "That's good." The white dragon heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "As long as he's not a heavenly god, we have a chance to defeat him." Chapter 2602. Bai Long spoke casually, but he was trying to boost their morale. He knew very well that the heavenly god-level battleship alone was enough to give them a headache, not to mention Emperor Tian Fa. At the same time, more than a dozen dark red light pillars slammed into the divine light shield of Zixiao planet. That incomparably huge purple light shield was already riddled with holes and filled with cracks. With a loud boom, the purple light shield could no longer withstand the terrifying power and collapsed on the spot. Thousands of purple light shards burst out and scattered in the void, like thousands of purple butterflies dancing in the air. A gap with a radius of dozens of miles appeared on the purple light shield. Endless spiritual chi of heaven and earth leaked out of Zixiao planet and surged into the void. The heavenly god-level battleship temporarily stopped firing and accelerated toward the gap. The heavenly god-level battleship was getting closer and closer to Zixiao planet. Ji Tianqing frowned and ordered in a deep voice, "Bai Long, speed up and intercept it. We can't let it enter Zixiao planet." Once the heavenly god-level battleship entered Zixiao planet and Tianqing battleship intercepted it, there would be a huge battle. A battle between experts of their level would cause great damage to Zixiao planet and leave behind a scene of devastation and ruin. If the two sides fought, it would even affect the other continents. That would be the consequence of destroying the world. Bai Long acknowledged the order and immediately used a secret technique to increase the speed of Tianqing battleship to the limit. Swoosh! Finally, before the heavenly god-level battleship entered the gap, Tianqing battleship arrived at the gap and stopped it. The heavenly god-level battleship immediately stopped moving forward and hovered in the void, aiming at Tianqing battleship. Ka ka ka, with a dull metallic sound, the hatch of Tianqing battleship opened. Ji Tianqing stepped out and stood proudly in the void, looking coldly at the heavenly god-level battleship. The hatch of the heavenly god-level battleship opened as well. A tall and burly figure walked out of the battleship. Ji Tianqing looked over and saw that it was a middle-aged man who was 10 meters tall and looked strong and powerful. His upper body was similar to that of a human. He had a broad chest, 2 strong and powerful arms, and a well-defined and dignified face. However, the lower half of his body was like that of a dragon horse. The horse had 4 hooves and a dragon tail that shone with golden light. His entire body was black and gold, and there were dense patterns on his body, as if they were divine patterns bestowed by the gods. A large and exquisite dark golden cloak was draped over his broad shoulders, gently swaying in the air. He also wore a 9 heavens limitless golden crown on his head, which covered his long purple hair. Ji Tianqing understood that the Heaven Punisher's powers were differentiated by color. The power of ordinary heaven-seeking experts was dark red in color, while the godly power of true God experts was dark red in color. Judging from that middle-aged powerhouse's hair color, his strength already reached the limits of the true God realm and was not far from the celestial deity realm. Ji Tianqing stared coldly at the middle-aged man. He used his God's Eye secret skill to observe him and muttered, "Great Emperor Tian Fa. LV9 True God Realm." At the same time, the great Emperor Tian Fa was also sizing up Ji Tianqing. When he saw Ji Tianqing's face, his eyes narrowed. He raised his eyebrows and said in a voice as loud as a bell, "I was wondering who it was. How dare you block my ship? You're so reckless. I didn't expect it to be you, you bastard." The great Emperor Tian Fa's voice had the power to pierce through gold and crack rocks. His voice was cold and indifferent, and it was filled with a domineering aura. Ji Tianqing let out a mocking grin and said, "Oh. In that case, you know who I am even without me telling you my name." The great Emperor Tian Fa grinned and said in a cold voice, "Of course. Ji Tianqing, you ruined my clan's great plan and killed so many of my elite warriors. You even worked with that golden rock to kill the Southern Expedition Marshal, causing me to lose one of my favorite generals. This emperor will remember all the debts you've owed me. I am about to enter the Purple Cloud planet to look for you. Since you have walked right into my trap, it will save me a lot of trouble to meet you here." Ji Tianqing chuckled and said confidently, "I would also like to see how strong the great Emperor Tian Fa, who is trying to conquer the 3,000 worlds, is. If you can't even get past me, what right do you have to dominate the heavens? He, what's the use of your sharp tongue?" The great Emperor Tian Fa sneered disdainfully and said, "Before I kill you, I have a gift for you." Having said that, he raised his right hand and snapped his fingers. A great Emperor Tian Fa whose body was light purple walked out of the heavenly deity battleship. This person had the upper body of a human and the lower body of a leopard. His entire body was covered in black spots. Furthermore, this person was also a true god and his strength had reached the 6th degree. Most importantly, in his wide and sharp right claw, he was holding a 7-foot-tall woman with a graceful figure. She was wearing a long silver dress and looked pure and beautiful. There was a crescent moon mark on her forehead and a pair of silver wings on her back. She looked a little young and looked like she was only 17 or 18 years old. However, at this moment, her clothes were in tatters and her hair was disheveled. Her breathing was weak and her body was curled up. Her body was covered in wounds from which light silver blood kept flowing out. Many of the wounds were so deep that her bones could be seen. She was severely injured. Even if she was still alive, she was on her last breath and was close to losing consciousness. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing's expression changed and a cold light flashed across his eyes. God Master Inu. She has been captured by the great Emperor Tian Fa. At this moment, 4 more martial gods in silver armor walked out of the heavenly deity battleship. Judging from their attire, these martial gods were the great Emperor Tian Fa's guards. They stood behind the great Emperor Tian Fa and lined up in a row. Each of them was carrying a martial god of an alien race who was covered in blood, wounds, and on the verge of passing out. These 4 foreign martial gods looked rather similar to God Lord Silvermoon, so they were probably experts of the moon spirit race. Ji Tianqing's eyes turned even colder when he saw this. He thought to himself, how did God Master Inu and her 4 martial gods end up in the hands of the great Emperor Tian Fa? If the great Emperor Tian Fa didn't kill them, why did he keep them alive and show them to me? As this thought flashed through his mind, the great Emperor Tian Fa sneered and said, Ji Tianqing, you must be familiar with the insects of the moon spirit race, right? Coincidentally, I discovered them just as I was about to reach Purple Cloud Planet. After I captured them, I used a little trick to read God Master Inu's memories. What surprised me was that not only did she recognize you, but she was also very close to you. Let me tell you a secret. God Master Inu has never fallen in love in her entire life. She only fell in love with you. Are you very surprised and surprised? Chapter 2603. The heaven-punishing emperor's words stabbed Ji Tianqing in the heart like a sharp blade. His expression did not change, but his body trembled. Heaven-punishing emperor. You despicable bastard, what are you trying to do? What am I trying to do? The heaven-punishing emperor's lips curled into a sneer. Of course I'm going to treat you to a good show and torture you bit by bit. She's fallen in love with you, so I'm going to burn her to ashes with the heaven-burning divine flame right in front of you. I'm going to let you watch her die in all kinds of pain with your own eyes. She's going to die right in front of you, but you can't do anything about it. As he spoke, the heaven-punishing emperor raised his right hand. A dark golden divine flame rose from the center of his palm and danced in the air. Even though they were 100,000 feet apart, Ji Tianqing could clearly sense the terrifying power contained within that divine flame. Flames of fury surged in his heart, but he remained calm on the surface. He said indifferently, Heaven-punishing emperor, you're too naive. For experts at our level, who would care about the life and death of others? Besides, I've only met God Lord Silvermoon once. No matter how you torture her, it has nothing to do with me. It won't affect me at all. Oh. The heaven-punishing emperor raised an eyebrow, his smile growing more playful. He tilted his head to look at the dying God Lord Silvermoon and sneered. God Lord Silvermoon, did you hear that? You have true feelings for Ji Tianqing, but he treats you like you're nothing. He doesn't care if you live or die. At this moment, how do you feel? Keek keek. God Lord Silvermoon ignored the heaven-punishing emperor. She raised her head with great difficulty and looked at Ji Tianqing with bleary eyes. Her lips moved, and blood roiled in her throat, but she could not speak. All she could do was mutter. Thus, she used her remaining divine soul energy to send a message to Ji Tianqing. You idiot! Didn't I, already, warn you? Why didn't you run? Why, did you, come here to die? There was no doubt that she did not believe what Ji Tianqing had just said. She knew in her heart that Ji Tianqing deliberately distanced himself from her in order to protect her. Therefore, Great Emperor Tian Fa's provocation was ineffective. Even when she was in prison and about to die, she never blamed anyone. She was still worried and anxious for Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing's heart trembled a little. He kept his voice calm and asked, You've already left Xixiao Star. Why did you come back? God Lord Silvermoon hesitated, lowered his head, and refused to answer. Ji Tianqing knew that she was hiding something, so he asked again, Tell me. Why did you come back? God Lord Silvermoon barely managed to raise his head, a bitter smile on his face as he messaged, when I returned to the moon spirit race. I wiped out all the heaven punishers, and brought peace to the moon spirit race. But I know that you're still on Purple Cloud Planet. The army of the heaven punishers will soon come to you, for revenge. That's why I brought the remaining 4 martial gods, to Violet Cloud Star to help you, fend off the heaven punisher clan's revenge. So that was how it was. Ji Tianqing was enlightened. No wonder God Lord Silvermoon had come back. She was still worried about him, so after resolving the crisis of the moon spirit race, she came back to help him. But the heavens were toying with her. She had brought the 4 martial gods of the moon spirit race to Violet Cloud Star, but she had run into Great Emperor Tian Fa. This was a coincidence, but it was also a tragedy. No one had expected Great Emperor Tian Fa to come so quickly. And now, the tragedy had already occurred. Ji Tianqing's emotions were extremely complicated as he stared at God Lord Silvermoon. After a few moments of silence, all he could say was 3 words. You are such a fool. God Lord Silvermoon was not angry or dejected. On the contrary, she squeezed out a smile. It was gentle, quiet, and carried with it a sense of peace and relief, as well as a sense of liberation. But I don't regret it. Ji Tianqing softly shook his head and messaged, why do you have to do this? God Lord Silvermoon wanted to say something else, but her divine soul energy grew even weaker. Great Emperor Tian Fa also noticed what was going on, and he began to laugh loudly. Ha ha ha, so what if the 2 of you are communicating via voice transmission? How could you hide from this emperor? The feeling of parting with death must be wonderful. After laughing, Great Emperor Tian Fa's face turned sinister as he coldly barked, Ji Tianqing, she has spoken her last words. You can open your eyes wide and watch her die. As he spoke, he flipped his broad right palm over and sent the heaven-burning divine flame flying toward God Lord Silvermoon. At almost the same time, Ji Tianqing sent the god-slaying flying saber toward the heaven-burning divine flame. He also used an instant movement art, instantly crossing the distance of 100,000 feet to reach Great Emperor Tian Fa's side. He did not attack Great Emperor Tian Fa. Instead, he brazenly pulled out the sword of burial of heaven and slashed at the 6th level true god. He wanted to block the heaven-burning divine flame and save God Lord Silvermoon. However, Great Emperor Tian Fa and that heaven-burning expert were prepared. Ji Tianqing had just reached Great Emperor Tian Fa when Great Emperor Tian Fa raised his palms and swatted at him. Boom! 2 broad palms struck Ji Tianqing at the same time, causing a loud, muffled sound to ring out. His chest immediately caved in, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body flew out involuntarily. The heaven-burning expert also grabbed God Lord Silvermoon and began to retreat. Boom! The god-slaying flying saber transformed into a golden streak of light that struck the heaven-burning divine flame. The heaven-burning divine flame instantly collapsed and exploded like fireworks, engulfing the area for 100 feet around. 10 some dark golden sparks landed on God Lord Silvermoon's body and immediately began to burn. Whoosh! The golden divine flame soared into the air, transforming into 10 some golden snakes that coiled around God Lord Silvermoon and began to rapidly burn away her divine body. Her clothes, hair, flesh, and blood were melting at an extremely high speed, turning into wisps of black ash. The excruciating pain caused her body to twitch and twist as she raised her head and let out a heart-wrenching scream. More than 100,000 feet away, Ji Tianqing finally managed to neutralize the impact and stop in the air. When he saw God Lord Silvermoon in agony as she was wrapped in a heaven-burning divine flame, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets in rage as he charged forward. But before he could reach the celestial god battleship, Great Emperor Tian Fa stepped forward to meet him. Ji Tianqing, stop dreaming. If this emperor wants her dead, she can't live. As he coldly bellowed, Great Emperor Tian Fa swung his fists at Ji Tianqing. 2 massive dark violet fists, imbued with destructive power, instantly appeared in front of Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing was helpless. All he could do was use his sword to block, unleashing 18 dazzling rays of golden light. Bang bang bang. 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 The fists clashed with the dazzling golden light, creating a series of explosions that caused the fabric of space to tremble. Dark purple and dazzling golden fragments of light immediately exploded and splashed into the void. The terrifying shockwaves sent Ji Tianqing flying another 20 li. This was how domineering and powerful a 9th-level true god was. Chapter 2604. Ji Tianqing had exchanged 2 blows with the heaven-punishing emperor and had been forced back. Not only had he failed to gain any advantage, but he had also been severely injured. This was the difference in strength between the two of them. After all, the heaven-punishing emperor was a peak 9th-level true god. Strictly speaking, he was only half a step away from the celestial god realm. He was a genuine half-step celestial god. And Ji Tianqing was only at the 3rd level of the true god realm. Even with his outstanding talent and battle prowess, he was only at the 6th level of the true god realm. At most, he was at the 7th level. How could he fight against a half-step celestial god? Whoosh! The dozen-odd golden fire snakes coiling around God Lord Silvermoon quickly spread out, transforming into a divine flame that soared into the sky and enveloped her entire body. She was enveloped by the divine flame, and her body quickly dissipated, turning into black ash that scattered in the air. Perhaps it was because she was in so much pain that she could no longer feel pain. She had actually calmed down. Before she died, she gave Ji Tianqing a deep look. There were too many complicated emotions in that one glance. There was regret and reluctance, as well as relief and relief. But there was no regret or resentment. Ji Tianqing felt a stab of pain in his heart at the last moment of her life. He would never forget that look. But he had tried his best. Boom! Crack! The heaven-punishing emperor charged over with unparalleled ferocity. He swung his fists, shattering the sword light in the sky and forcing Qin Changsheng back once more. Qin Changsheng could not fight the heaven-punishing emperor head-on, so he could only teleport back and fight with the heaven-punishing emperor. The heaven-punishing emperor had the upper hand and was even more relentless. He relentlessly pursued Qin Changsheng. The two of them engaged in a fierce battle in the air, gradually distancing themselves from the 2 warships. At the same time, the heaven-punishing emperor on the celestial warship took out a purple divine saber. Wielding the purple divine saber, he killed 4 martial gods of the moon spirit race with a swish, chopping them into several pieces. Blood splattered everywhere, and the severed corpses fell to the deck. The heaven-punishing emperor unleashed several balls of purple divine flame and quickly burned the corpses to ashes. At this point, the 4 moon spirit race martial gods followed in God Lord Silvermoon's footsteps, turning into black ash that scattered through the void. While attacking Ji Tianqing fiercely, the Great Emperor of Heaven sent a voice transmission to the Great Emperor of Heaven. Imperial Tutor, destroy Ji Tianqing's battleship. The Heaven Punisher standing on the Sky Deity battleship immediately replied, yes, Great Emperor. As it turned out, this LV6 True God Realm expert was the Imperial Tutor of the Heaven Punisher clan. He was also Great Emperor Heaven Punisher's trusted advisor. He waved his hand and dismissed the 4 silver-armored guards. The 4 of them hurriedly returned to the Heavenly Deity battleship. Ka, the hatch of the battleship immediately closed. The Imperial Tutor stood alone in the void as he waved his purple divine saber and ordered, fire. In an instant, the hundreds of cannons on the Heavenly Deity battleship lit up with purple divine light and shot out more than 300 light beams. Boom 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 boom. More than 300 purple light beams shot toward the Tianqing battleship like a rain of arrows, sealing off the area within a few dozen miles. Inside the Tianqing battleship, Bai Long had already cast a divine skill and accumulated a vast amount of divine power. Swoosh! As the golden divine light shone, a light shield with a radius of 2,000 feet appeared and protected the entire battleship. At the same time, the Tianqing battleship exploded with its fastest speed and retreated into the distance. Boom 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 boom. Although the Tianqing battleship had dodged more than 100 of the light beams, it was still hit by more than 200 light beams. There was an earth-shattering explosion. The golden barrier of divine light shook violently on the spot. Dense cracks appeared on it, and countless holes appeared. The powerful impact also sent the Tianqing battleship flying 100 miles away. Fortunately, the divine light shield reduced 80% of the impact. The Tianqing battleship was made of dawn stones and its defense was comparable to a heavenly divine weapon. That was why it was not damaged. After the two parties pulled away, Bai Long quickly maneuvered the Tianqing battleship to launch a counterattack. Boom 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 boom. The 200 cannons on the Tianqing battleship also shot out dazzling golden light beams toward the Emperor of Heaven Slayer's battleship. Bai Long was surprised by what happened next. He had thought that the Emperor of Heaven Slayer's battleship would dodge or form a divine light shield to block his attack. However, he did not expect the heavenly divine battleship to ignore his attack and show no intention of dodging. Boom 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 boom. The 200 golden light beams all hit the heavenly divine battleship, creating a deafening explosion. The terrifying impact immediately sent the celestial deity battleship flying, tumbling over 100 miles away. There were many dents and marks on the pitch-black surface of the battleship. The silver-armored guards in the heavenly divine battleship were in an uproar. They were all shocked. The imperial tutor in the void frowned when he saw this. His eyes were filled with surprise. Ji Tianqing's battleship can hurt the Emperor of Heaven Slayer's divine battleship? This is a heavenly god-level battleship. Could it be that Ji Tianqing's battleship is also a heavenly god-level battleship? The imperial tutor's body shook when he thought of this. He shook his head and said, "How is this possible?" The Emperor of Heaven Slayer was blessed by the gods and rewarded by the deities from the upper world. That's why he was able to build a heavenly god-level battleship. How could Ji Tianqing own a heavenly god-level battleship? The imperial tutor could no longer remain calm in his shock and confusion. He no longer wanted to stay and watch the battle. His body flashed and he turned into a beam of purple light that shot toward the Tianqing battleship. He slashed down with his divine saber. Swoosh! Two dazzling purple light blades that were 100 miles long slashed toward the Tianqing battleship. At this critical moment, Bai Long and the three divine beasts worked together to cast spells and maneuvered the Tianqing battleship to teleport. Swoosh! The Tianqing battleship shone with a golden light and teleported 100 miles away in an instant, narrowly avoiding the two light blades. Not only that, but the battleship also released beams of light that shot toward the imperial tutor. The imperial tutor was even more surprised. He was even more certain that the Tianqing battleship was a heavenly god-level battleship. At this critical moment, he also used his teleportation skill and teleported 300 miles away in the void to avoid the beams of light that shot toward him. After he had retreated far away, the imperial tutor held his divine saber and stared at the Tianqing battleship. He shouted, "It is indeed a heavenly god-level battleship. I understand now. It must be the boundless divine stone that the southern conquering marshal mentioned. Ji Tianqing's battleship must be made of boundless divine stone. No wonder it is so powerful." After he understood the reason, the imperial tutor turned his head and looked into the depths of the void to search for the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer. He wanted to report this great news to the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer immediately. However, the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer was chasing after Ji Tianqing and had already flown more than 10,000 miles away. The two sides were fighting fiercely in the void. Light and shadows filled the sky and sword chi filled the air. The area within 10,000 miles was sealed off by the sword chi and sword chi. It was almost impossible to see what was happening inside. Even so, the imperial tutor was not worried at all. He firmly believed that the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer could kill Ji Tianqing with ease. What he needed to do was to fulfill the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer's orders and destroy or take down Ji Tianqing's battleship. Chapter 2605. Since the Imperial Tutor had confirmed that Ji Tianqing's battleship was a heavenly god-grade battleship, he did not waste any more time. He flew back to the Emperor of Heaven's battleship and personally piloted the heavenly god battleship to attack Tianqing's battleship. Boom! 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 Hundreds of purple light beams shot out like a rain of arrows and enveloped Tianqing's battleship. Bai Long was prepared for this. He piloted Tianqing's battleship to unleash golden light beams that clashed with the heavenly god battleship. Boom! 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 The golden and purple light beams collided violently in the void, creating earth-shattering explosions. The pillars of light of both colors collapsed, exploding into fragments that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. The violent impact swept up a dazzling hurricane in the void. The heavenly god battleship's bombardment was neutralized just like that. The Imperial Tutor was even more surprised. He exclaimed in disbelief, "Damn it! The other party actually managed to block my bombardment." To be able to control the battleship with such precision, the person piloting the battleship must be very powerful and experienced. In the past 1,000 years, the Imperial Tutor had piloted his battleship countless times to fight in the void. Countless battleships had been destroyed by his battleship. Countless worlds had their defenses destroyed by his battleship and were then invaded and enslaved. But now, he had met his most powerful opponent. He piloted the heavenly god battleship and fought with Tianqing's battleship. He flew through the void at maximum speed. The two battled for a few minutes, but the Imperial Tutor did not gain the upper hand. In fact, he could not do anything to Tianqing's battleship. He could not stop it or defeat it. He could only grit his teeth and persevere. He chased after Tianqing's battleship and waited patiently for the other party to reveal his weakness. He believed that no matter how experienced the pilot of the battleship was, there would be a time when he would reveal his weakness. On the other side, in the void 100,000 miles away, Ji Tianqing and the Emperor of Heaven Slayer were still fighting. Both parties were engaged in an intense battle. Of course, the Emperor of Heaven Slayer still had the upper hand. He had the initiative. He continued to speed up his attacks as he waved his wide palms, sending out purple light palm shadows that covered the sky, sealing off the area within a radius of 100 miles. Ji Tianqing was surrounded by layers upon layers of palm shadows. He was completely enveloped by the purple light and had nowhere to run. The void within a radius of 100 miles had been sealed. Even if he used the power of the law of space and barely managed to escape the seal of the golden palm shadow, he would definitely be injured. Left with no other choice, he could only try his best to use his ultimate sword technique. He held the sword of burial of heaven and fiercely stabbed to the side. Sword through heaven. The sword of burial of heaven radiated with dazzling golden light, forming a gigantic sword that was over 3,000 meters long. It erupted with power that could pierce through all things as it struck a golden palm projection with a boom. Boom! The golden palm shadow was pierced through and exploded into pieces that covered the sky and earth, splashing into the void. The giant sword also shattered, turning into countless golden fragments. Just as the countless golden palm shadows were about to hit Ji Tianqing used the power of the law of space and his figure flashed away. Whoosh! He instantly passed through the gap and teleported 200 miles away. The great Emperor of Heaven Slayer's attack had missed. He also teleported 200 miles away and chased after Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing held the sword of burial of heaven with both hands and swept it out without hesitation. Whoosh! A dazzling golden crescent-shaped sword light instantly struck the charging great Emperor of Heaven Slayer. However, the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer used his vigorous divine power to form a wall in front of him. Boom! With a loud boom, the crescent-shaped sword light landed heavily on the purple light wall. The sword light was destroyed on the spot, and the purple light wall was also slashed to the point that it trembled continuously, and dense cracks appeared on it. The powerful impact forced the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer back by 10 steps. His hair fluttered in the wind. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ji Tianqing hurriedly teleported 300 miles away to distance himself from the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer. However, the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer sneered. He crossed 300 miles in one step and caught up with Jian Wuxuan again. Little b*****, what's the point of your stubborn resistance now? The great Emperor of Heaven Slayer sneered. He reached out his left hand and grabbed at Ji Tianqing. A purple light palm as large as a mountain descended from the sky. It extended 5 huge fingers and enveloped Ji Tianqing. Seeing that he was about to be captured, Ji Tianqing hurriedly swung the Sword of Burial of Heaven and performed a unique sword technique. Rising Sword of Life. Ji Tianqing unleashed his mighty divine power and infused it into the Sword of Burial of Heaven. Together with the Burial of Heaven, he slashed out a giant sword that was 10,000 feet long. Boom! The 10,000 feet long giant sword with a hint of black in the golden light cut through the purple light palm. Ji Tianqing flew up. He wanted to pass through the gap in the purple light palm and escape the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer's capture. However, the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer had already waved his right hand and slashed out a giant purple light blade. Boom! With a muffled sound, Ji Tianqing didn't have time to dodge. He was hit by the giant purple light blade and was sent flying while spitting out blood. He drew an arc in the sky and fell 100 miles away. Before he landed, the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer caught up with him again. He separated and interlocked his palms and slapped out a giant purple light dragon that was 10 miles long. Roar! The ferocious-looking purple light dragon let out a deafening roar and fiercely charged towards Ji Tianqing. In the next moment, Ji Tianqing would be hit by the purple light dragon and be severely injured. At this critical moment, he could only hold the Sword of Burial of Heaven tightly with both hands and unleash his strongest power. He combined his essence, chi, and soul and slashed out a giant sword that was 10 miles long. Sky-splitting sword. The dazzling heaven-splitting sword struck the purple light dragon with a loud boom, and an earth-shattering boom erupted. Boom! In that instant, the purple light dragon was split into 2 halves, and tens of thousands of purple light shards burst out in all directions. The heaven-splitting giant sword also shattered and scattered in the void. However, the terrifying impact sent Ji Tianqing flying again. He sped up and crashed into the sky 100 miles away. The internal injuries that he had just suppressed worsened again. Golden blood flowed out of his nose and mouth. Damn it! He is indeed a half-step divine realm expert. His strength and speed are much faster than mine. Ji Tianqing frowned and cursed in his heart. He anxiously tried to think of a solution. Fortunately, he had used the law of Earth to strengthen his defense and neutralize most of the impact. Otherwise, his injuries would be even more severe. It's a pity that I am in the sky and there is nowhere to borrow power. The law of Earth is not as effective. If I were on a star, I would be able to use the law of Earth's power and block the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer's attack. This thought flashed through Ji Tianqing's mind and he quickly came up with an idea. He decided to hide for a while and escape from the sky. He would enter a star and fight the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer again. Although he was very close to the Purple Cloud planet, he did not want to go back there. If he fought on the Purple Cloud planet, he would definitely destroy a few continents and harm billions of people. The aftermath of his battle with the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer would be enough to destroy heaven and earth and plunge the Purple Cloud planet into misery and suffering. Therefore, he could only escape to the depths of the sky and find a deserted star. Download address, mobile reading. Chapter 2606. Bam! Just as Ji Tianqing was pondering, the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher caught up with him and sent him flying with a slap. Luckily, he was prepared. He used the law of earth to form a barrier behind him. The dark golden barrier was smashed into pieces. He rolled for another 200 miles. He took this opportunity to speed up and head for Tianqing's battleship. Swoosh! Swoosh! He stopped fighting the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher. He used the law of space to teleport continuously. Within 10 breaths, he had teleported 20 times. His body flashed in the void. After 10 breaths, he had teleported 10,000 miles away. He had temporarily shaken off the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher's pursuit. The great Emperor of Heaven Punisher also teleported to chase after him. However, he could not teleport 20 times in a row. Soon, he was 2,000 miles away. The great Emperor of Heaven Punisher was in disbelief. This little bastard teleported 20 times in a row. Within 10 breaths, he had teleported 10,000 miles. Can his divine body withstand the power of the spatial tear? Can his divine power explode 20 times in a row without going berserk? No. Based on his cultivation level, this is almost impossible. Unless, he has mastered the space superpower or the law of space. The great Emperor of Heaven Punisher analyzed the reason why Ji Tianqing could teleport continuously. When he thought of the law of space, he immediately dismissed the idea. The law of space is a heavenly god-level law. He is only a true god. There is no way he can master it. Therefore, he must have mastered some kind of space superpower. This kind of superpower can only be used for a short period of time. It cannot be used for long. Soon, his divine power will be depleted and he will be captured by me. The great Emperor of Heaven Punisher's lips curled into a cold smile. His eyes were filled with confidence. He turned into a beam of purple light and sped through the void. He followed closely behind Ji Tianqing and flew deep into the void. At the same time, he did not forget to send a message to the imperial tutor and ask him to join them in the battleship. However, what happened next left him dumbfounded. Swoosh! Swoosh, swoosh! Ji Tianqing's speed didn't decrease at all. He was actually flickering in the void and was still teleporting. In a short span of 20 breaths, he teleported 40 times consecutively and escaped 20,000 miles away. The distance between him and martial monarch Tian Fa had increased to 6,000 li. The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing Emperor's expression changed drastically. His face was filled with astonishment as he exclaimed, "What? This was absolutely impossible." He didn't suffer any backlash at all and continued to teleport 40 times. This was definitely not a spatial ability. How could there be such a miraculous ability that could allow him to reach the level of a heavenly god with the strength of a true god? Could it be that he has truly grasped the laws of space? This time, great Emperor Tian Fa gave up on the idea of using the space divine power. He began to suspect that Ji Tianqing had grasped the laws of space. Even if this idea was absurd, it was impossible for a true god to grasp a heavenly god-level law. But how could he explain the scene in front of him? Swish swish swish. Ji Tianqing didn't show any signs of exhaustion or backfiring. He was still teleporting in the void. His speed did not decrease at all, and he was getting closer and closer to Tianqing's battleship. Another 30 breaths passed, and he teleported another 60 times, traveling 30,000 miles. Great Emperor Tian Fa was completely speechless. No matter how unbelievable it was, he had to accept reality. He had to admit that Ji Tianqing had definitely grasped the laws of space. Other than that, there was no other explanation. Damn you, little b*****. How did he manage to grasp a heavenly god-level law when he was only a true god? Even I, a half-step heavenly god, can only grasp 2 true god laws. I can't even comprehend a heavenly god-level law. The great Emperor of Heaven Extermination was both shocked and annoyed. He felt a strong sense of defeat and unwillingness to admit defeat. He thought that he was extremely talented and powerful. There was no other elite in the 3,000 worlds who could be as unparalleled as he was. But today, he had met a weirdo like Ji Tianqing. His cultivation level was lower than his, and he couldn't defeat him, but he had achieved what he had always dreamed of. This difference made him extremely jealous. Soon, 100 breaths passed. Ji Tianqing teleported continuously in the void, and he teleported 200 times. He crossed 100,000 miles and finally met up with Tianqing's battleship. Swoosh! Bai Long flew over on his battleship and opened the hatch to welcome Ji Tianqing in. Then, the battleship turned around and fled into the depths of the void. It turned into a black shadow and disappeared into the darkness. Bastard! Don't even think about escaping from me. Great Emperor Tian Fa roared and quickly teleported to his battleship. 3 breaths later, Imperial Tutor arrived on his battleship and met up with him. Great Emperor Tian Fa entered his battleship and asked Imperial Tutor to take control of the battleship. The battleship flew as fast as it could and chased after Su Quebec. The 2 warships turned into black blurs and sped through the void, one in front of the other. As time passed, 1 hour after another passed. Great Emperor Tian Fa's battleship was indeed a genuine heavenly god-level battleship. After activating various divine formations to accelerate the battleship's speed, it quickly consumed divine stones. The distance between the 2 battleships kept shrinking. From the initial 30,000 kilometers, to 28,000 kilometers, then to 25,000 kilometers, and then to 22,000 kilometers, 5 days later, the distance between the 2 battleships had shrunk to about 4,000 miles. Great Emperor Tian Fa stood in the cockpit of his battleship and watched Imperial Tutor take control of the battleship. At the same time, he stared at the void in front of him. Humph! Even if he has mastered the law of space, he is not a real heavenly god. How can he keep teleporting? He must have used up too much of his divine power. His primordial chi must have been greatly damaged. The great Emperor of Heaven Slayer murmured to himself with a cold smile on his face. Imperial Tutor chimed in, "Great Emperor, although that kid's battleship is made of mysterious divine stones, it is comparable to a heavenly god-level battleship. However, your battleship is a genuine heavenly god-level battleship. We will catch up to that battleship in at most 1 day. Then, you can do whatever you want with that kid. I will also capture his battleship and study it carefully." Great Emperor Tian Fa nodded slightly and said in a serious tone, "This kid has a mysterious background and many tricks up his sleeves. He is truly cunning. If he is given a few more 100 years, I wonder how powerful he will become. When that happens, he will definitely become a huge threat to me." Imperial Tutor stared at the void and said in a low voice, "Don't worry, Great Emperor. We will kill him soon and find out the source of the divine stones. He has no right or chance to become your stumbling block." "I hope so." Great Emperor Tian Fa nodded slightly and muttered to himself, "I need to sort out the message that the Southern Expedition Marshal sent to me. I need to go through it carefully and summarize all the information about Ji Tianqing. I really want to know what kind of ability and background that reptile from a weak mortal world has." Download address, mobile reading. Chapter 2607. The day passed quickly. The situation was just as the Imperial Tutor had said. The heaven-punishing divine battleship was indeed superior. It finally caught up with the Tianqing battleship. The 2 battleships were less than 1,000 miles apart. 2 cannons opened at the bow of the heaven-punishing divine ship, and 2 huge and thick divine cannons poked out. The barrels of these 2 divine cannons were extremely thick. They were 10 times thicker than the cannons on the sides of the divine battleship. These were the main cannons of the heaven-punishing divine battleship. They were located at the front of the divine battleship and were extremely powerful. They were rarely used. Every time the cannons were fired, it would cost more than 1,000 divine stones. However, the heaven-punishing great emperor was determined to kill Ji Tianqing and capture the Tianqing battleship. Even if he had to pay a huge price, he would not hesitate. Prepare to fire the cannons and blast it to smithereens. The heaven-punishing great emperor ordered as he stared at the Tianqing battleship. The imperial tutor acknowledged the order and quickly controlled the divine formation to accumulate divine power for the two main cannons. Swoosh! The dark muzzle of the main cannon suddenly lit up with a deep purple light. The purple light was extremely concentrated divine power. It was so purple that it was almost black. It was extremely powerful. Without a doubt, the Tianqing battleship would be severely damaged if it was hit by the main cannons. Even if it was made of boundless divine stones, the consequences would be unpredictable. When the dark purple divine light in the main cannons reached its peak, they locked onto the Tianqing battleship. In the next moment, two destructive purple light pillars were about to burst out. At this moment, Bai Long, who was controlling the Tianqing battleship, sensed great danger. It's over. Master, the heaven-punishing great emperor is using the main cannons of the divine battleship to lock onto us. Bai Long was furious and anxious. He quickly controlled the Tianqing battleship to move left and right, drawing an arc in the sky. He moved in a chaotic pattern, trying his best to avoid being locked onto by the heaven-punishing divine battleship. At this time, Ji Tianqing stared at the void in front of him and said calmly, "Don't panic, I have a way." The star in front of him was dim and lightless, without any divine light shield formed by the natural laws of the great Tao. It was definitely a star without any intelligent life. If we fly in the void, we won't be able to escape from Great Emperor Tian Fa. Only by entering that planet and fighting Emperor Tian Fa will we have a chance to survive. In front of the Tianqing battleship, there was a huge grayish-white star, quietly suspended in the void. Even though the Tianqing battleship was very close to the star. However, the actual distance between the two was still hundreds of thousands of miles. Bai Long said to Ji Tianqing while controlling the battleship, "Master, you're right, but we're still at least 500,000 miles away from that star." Ji Tianqing's expression was serious as he said, "I have always believed that origin stones have many uses and are not as simple as we think. It's just that we haven't had the chance to do any deeper research. Therefore, I'm going to take a risk and give it a try." Bai Long frowned and asked curiously, "Master, what are you going to do?" Ji Tianqing didn't answer. He only ordered in a deep voice, "Get ready and stabilize." With that, he made a hand seal and activated the natural laws of space, releasing a dazzling white light. Swoosh! He pressed his palms down and injected an endless amount of white light into the Tianqing battleship. Instantly, a dazzling white light drilled into the skyline battleship and spread out at an extremely fast speed. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, the mysterious power of the natural laws of space filled the entire Tianqing battleship, causing the battleship to light up. Seeing this, Bai Long and the three divine beasts understood Ji Tianqing's intention. "Master, will this work? Old Ji, are you trying to use the natural laws of space to teleport the battleship?" "It's not teleportation. In Bai Long's words, this is called space jump." Isn't this too whimsical?" Just as Bai Long and the three divine beasts were filled with anxiety, the Tianqing battleship suddenly shook violently. The frequency of the shaking was extremely high. It was as if some mysterious power was sealed in the battleship and was about to erupt like a volcano. Bai Long's eyes narrowed as he quickly focused on controlling the Tianqing battleship. In the next moment, the mysterious power in the Tianqing battleship finally erupted. Swoosh! The Tianqing battleship released a dazzling white light, illuminating the void within a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Immediately after, the Tianqing battleship disappeared from the spot and teleported 20,000 miles away. Without a doubt, Ji Tianqing's attempt was a success. The Tianqing battleship, which was made of dawn stones, was able to withstand the power of the natural laws of space and achieve space jump. The distance between the Tianqing battleship and the heaven-punishing divine battleship increased by 20,000 miles in an instant. Almost at the same time, the heaven-punishing divine battleship seized the opportunity to lock onto the Tianqing battleship and blasted out two destructive purple light pillars. Boom! Boom! Two purple light pillars that were hundreds of miles long blasted out from the huge and thick main cannon towards the Tianqing battleship. In the cockpit of the heaven-punishing divine battleship, the Imperial Tutor revealed a satisfied smile. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Finally, I have seized the opportunity. However, before he could finish his sentence, he stopped abruptly. The second half of his sentence was stuck in his throat and could not be uttered anymore. This was because he saw the Tianqing battleship flash with white light and disappear from the spot with his own eyes. In the next moment, the two purple light pillars missed and blasted into the void. The Tianqing battleship appeared in the void 20,000 miles away, unscathed. The smile on the Imperial Tutor's face froze. His expression changed drastically as a look of disbelief appeared on his face. The heaven-punishing great emperor, who was standing behind the Imperial Tutor, was also shocked. His eyes widened. What? His battleship can also teleport. And teleport 20,000 miles in one go? This is not teleportation. This is space jump. The heaven-punishing great emperor was shocked. His heart was in turmoil. It's the law of space. It must be the law of space. Ji Tianqing's battleship can also use the law of space to perform space jump. The boundless divine stone has such an incredible effect. The heaven-punishing great emperor was filled with shock and desire for the mysterious boundless divine stone even more. He could not wait to capture Ji Tianqing and interrogate him about the origin and use of the boundless divine stone. The Imperial Tutor came to his senses. He was both shocked and excited. His voice trembled as he said, "The boundless divine stone's effect is so powerful and magical. Great Emperor, if we can get the boundless divine stone and use it, who else in the 3,000 sectors can stop us?" The heaven-punishing great emperor clenched his fists and nodded solemnly. "I must get the boundless divine stone. Even the purple cloud galaxy is not as important as the boundless divine stone. I will capture Ji Tianqing even if I have to travel through the 3,000 sectors and chase him to the end of the void. I swear I will find the origin of the boundless divine stone." Download address, mobile reading. Chapter 2608. The great emperor of Heaven Slayer was in hot pursuit. However, the Tianqing battleship was 20,000 miles away from the heaven-slaying divine battleship. It would be difficult for the great emperor of Heaven Slayer to catch up. The heaven-slaying divine battleship could only travel at its fastest speed to close the distance. As time passed, the two battleships drew closer and closer to the planet. A day later, the two battleships arrived at the grayish-white planet. The two battleships were still 10,000 miles away from each other. The grayish-white planet was not protected by any divine light. Its surface was dim and lifeless. The entire surface of the planet was exposed to the void. It was cold and deadly silent. There was no spiritual chi, vegetation, or life on the planet. Grayish-white rocks and sand could be seen everywhere. The hard ground and rocks had been eroded by the void, leaving behind traces of time. At every moment, dust and stone fragments would fall from the stars and scatter into the void. Clearly, the planet was being eroded by the void. It could take hundreds of thousands of years or even tens of thousands of years for the planet to be completely eroded and reduced to dust. Swoosh! The Tianqing battleship flew into the planet and landed on a vast grayish-white land. The ground was uneven and huge rocks could be seen everywhere. They looked like mountain ranges. The Tianqing battleship flew close to the ground and fled at lightning speed. Ji Tianqing took the opportunity to release his divine consciousness to investigate the situation on the ground. He soon found the answer. He said calmly, "There is no life on this planet. There is no spiritual qi of heaven and earth. We cannot stay here for long. Otherwise, we will have nowhere to replenish our divine power. However, there is boundless land and rocks here. There is a huge amount of metal in them. I can use my law of earth here. I have a chance to fight the great emperor of Heaven Slayer." After that, he ordered in a deep voice, "White Dragon, let's stick to the original plan. You will take the battleship and fight the great emperor of Heaven Slayer's battleship. I want to fight the great emperor of Heaven Slayer on this planet." White Dragon and the three divine beasts nodded to show that they understood. They reminded him to be careful. "Master, the great emperor of Heaven Slayer is too powerful. Don't fight him head-on. Old G, if we can't win, let's find a way to escape." "That's right. Where there's life, there's hope. When we're strong enough, we'll come back and kill Emperor Feng Tian." Ji Tianqing nodded. His figure flashed out of the warship and landed on the cold, desolate gray land. Shwa! He landed on a small, grayish-white mountain that was 1,000 meters tall. His hands were behind his back as he expressionlessly looked behind him. He stared at the heaven-punishing divine warship that was speeding towards him. When he saw this, the imperial tutor who was controlling the heaven-punishing divine warship immediately frowned and cursed angrily, "Damn you little bastard. You're too arrogant and condescending. How dare he leave the battleship and face us alone? Isn't that just courting death?" As he cursed, the imperial tutor hurriedly steered the divine battleship toward Ji Tianqing. At the same time, he opened up the main cannons of the divine warship and blasted out two purple light pillars that were as long as 5 kilometers toward Ji Tianqing. Boom boom. The two purple light pillars that could destroy heaven and earth pierced through the void and blasted toward Ji Tianqing. He was about to be hit by the purple light pillars, but he had no intention of dodging. When the imperial tutor saw this, he sneered mockingly and shouted, "Little bastard, you're not dodging. You're dead meat this time." However, the Emperor Feng Tian did not let his guard down. He stared at Ji Tianqing as if he was trying to see through him. He had a feeling that Ji Tianqing was not as simple as he seemed. He must have some trump cards up his sleeves. Just as he had expected. At this critical moment, Ji Tianqing suddenly raised his palms and used the law of earth. Boom! The ground under his feet suddenly rose into the air and formed a grayish-white wall that was as tall as 1,000 miles. The earth, rocks, and metals in the ground were all star golden sand and all kinds of hard rocks. This 1,000-mile wall was formed by the earth within 1,000 miles. It was extremely sturdy. Boom! Boom! The two purple light pillars that could destroy heaven and earth smashed into the 1,000-mile wall, creating an earth-shattering explosion. The heaven-punishing divine battleship's main cannon was indeed powerful. It had blasted two huge holes in the 1,000-mile wall and caused dense cracks to appear. With a series of cracking sounds, the entire high wall shattered, turning into billions of pieces of earth and stone that scattered on the ground. When the smoke and dust dissipated and the heaven-punishing divine battleship arrived above the ruins, Ji Tianqing had already disappeared. The heaven-punishing divine battleship stopped for a while. The imperial tutor and the Emperor Feng Tian released their divine senses to search for Ji Tianqing in the surrounding area. However, they could not find Ji Tianqing's aura even after searching for 60,000 miles. Damn it! Where did that brat run off to? Even if he used the law of space to teleport, he could not have escaped 60,000 miles in such a short time. Just as the two of them were in shock, tens of thousands of rock spikes suddenly emerged from the ground in all directions. Each of the rock spikes was formed by the hardest rocks and metals. They were thousands of feet long and looked like giant stalks of grass. Swish, 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 swish. In the next moment, tens of thousands of rock spikes shot out and sealed off an area of 10,000 miles. They engulfed the heaven-punishing divine battleship. The Imperial Tutor's expression changed immediately. He hurriedly controlled the heaven-punishing divine battleship to unleash purple light that shot into the sky and formed a huge shield. Bam, 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 bam. As soon as the purple light shield was formed, it was hit by countless rock spikes. A series of earth-shattering explosions rang out. Instantly, the purple light shield started to tremble. Cracks and dents appeared on it. The heaven-punishing divine battleship was also trembling. Countless rock spikes were also shattered by the tremors. They turned into debris that filled the sky and scattered across the ruins. After the tens of thousands of rock spikes, the shield of the heaven-punishing divine battleship was completely destroyed. There were hundreds of dents and cracks on the surface of the heaven-punishing divine battleship. The Imperial Tutor hurriedly ordered the 36 martial god guards and more than 2,000 black-armored soldiers to quickly cast spells to repair the cracks on the heaven-punishing divine battleship. Seeing this, the heaven-punishing divine emperor frowned and pondered for a moment. Then, he ordered in a low voice, "Imperial Tutor, I'll leave the heaven-punishing divine battleship to you. I'm going to deal with Ji Tianqing personally." The Imperial Tutor nodded and acknowledged the order. He reminded, "Be careful, Great Emperor. This man is very cunning and he can control the power of the earth. He most likely has mastered the law of 5 elements." To the two of them, Ji Tianqing could control the earth because he had mastered the law of 5 elements. The law of 5 elements contained the power of the earth. Naturally, he could control the earth. However, the two of them did not think too deeply about it. They did not even think about the law of earth. It was a heavenly god-level law. A true god could not possibly master it. To the heaven-punishing divine emperor and the Imperial Tutor, it was already shocking that Ji Tianqing could master one heavenly god-level law of space. How could he master 2 heavenly god-level laws? This was unprecedented and unheard of. Chapter 2609. Whoosh! Great Emperor Tian Fa flew out of the divine battleship and stood in the sky. His face was ice cold as he looked down at the ground with sharp eyes, searching for traces of Ji Tianqing. At the same time, the heaven-slaying divine battleship flew into the distance and chased after Tianqing's battleship. After 100 breaths, the 2 battleships disappeared into the sky tens of thousands of miles away. Only Great Emperor Tian Fa and Ji Tianqing were left in this area. However, Ji Tianqing had merged with the ground and still didn't show himself. The Great Emperor of Heaven Extermination looked down at the ruins and yelled in a loud voice, "Ji Tianqing, stop hiding. How dare you show off your 5 elements laws in front of me? Come out and accept your death." His voice reverberated on the ground and covered an area of 50,000 miles. However, Ji Tianqing still didn't show himself. Thousands of dark golden dragons flew out from all directions in response to the Great Emperor of Heaven Punisher's words. Whoosh! 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 Ji Tianqing used the law of earth and absorbed the metal energy within 100,000 miles. He formed thousands of dark golden divine dragons and attacked Great Emperor Tian Fa from all directions. In the blink of an eye, thousands of dark gold divine dragons had reached the Great Emperor of Heaven Slayer and engulfed him. These divine dragons were made of metal and weren't real life. Therefore, they weren't afraid of death and were extremely powerful. After all, their purpose of existence was to injure Great Emperor Tian Fa. It was worth it even if they had to disintegrate. At this critical moment, Great Emperor Tian Fa shone with purple light and unleashed a terrifying power. He punched 360 times and kicked 540 times. His attack speed was so fast that his body blurred and turned into a purple shadow. Boom! 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 In just 2 breaths, he destroyed more than 900 dark golden divine dragons. Only over 60 dark golden divine dragons struck him, causing his entire body to tremble as purple light flashed explosively. By the time all the dark golden divine dragons disappeared, he'd been thrown dozens of miles away. His divine crown was crooked, his hair was messy, and his clothes were tattered. However, that was all. He was still completely unharmed. Ha! To be able to utilize the 5 elemental laws to such an extent with the strength of a true god, you can be considered an outstanding talent among true gods. Unfortunately, this bit of power is like scratching an itch to this emperor. The Emperor of Heaven Extermination snickered disdainfully. He raised his fists and slammed them into the ground with destructive force. Boom! Boom! 2 fist auras as large as mountains, purple to the point that they were almost black, smashed into the ground, causing an earth-shattering boom. Instantly, a huge crater with a radius of 10,000 miles was blasted out of the ground, and hundreds of wide gullies appeared around it. Each gully was tens of thousands of miles long, like an abyss. An endless amount of gravel and dust rose into the air, surging like clouds. A massive earthquake swept through a radius of 50,000 miles, causing the entire region to be turned upside down. Even though Ji Tianqing had used the laws of the earth in time to fuse with the earth within 100,000 miles, he still hadn't succeeded. However, nearly half of the earth had been destroyed into ruins, which also caused him to bear a tremendous amount of power, causing his injuries to worsen. He felt as if his internal organs had shifted, and his divine consciousness was also dizzy. He tried his best to suppress the injuries in his internal organs, and only then did he regain consciousness. At this moment, the Emperor of Heaven Extermination raised his right foot again. He slowly accumulated all his divine power and stomped down. Ji Tianqing had no doubt that the Emperor of Heaven Extermination stomp could destroy everything within 100,000 miles. He didn't dare to be careless. He hurriedly traveled through the ground, and in the blink of an eye, he was already 30,000 miles away. Boom! The giant foot, which covered the sky and the earth, stomped down on the ground with a force that could suppress everything. At that moment, the ground within 100,000 miles caved in, and sand and dust shot up into the sky. Half of this region had already been destroyed, and the remaining 50,000 miles of land had also collapsed, turning into a huge crater. The terrifying impact spread wildly underground, destroying the rock layers thousands of miles deep and turning them into dust. The power of the Emperor of Heaven Extermination stomp was very close to that of a true god. Even though Ji Tianqing had managed to escape in time, he was still hit by the aftershocks. He spat out blood, and his internal organs were shattered. Swoosh! The destructive impact wrapped around him as he rushed out from the depths of the ground and flew into the void. He hurriedly circulated his divine power to suppress the injuries in his internal organs, and tried his best to stay conscious. The Emperor of Heaven Extermination saw that he had been forced out of the ground, and he quickly teleported after him. Ha! Little B** starred, you want to fight me with this little ability? The Emperor of Heaven Extermination laughed as he waved his hands. 2 giant palms shot toward Ji Tianqing, covering the sky. Ji Tianqing reacted quickly. He held the sword of burial of heaven with both hands and swung it at the palms. Boom! Boom! A giant crescent-shaped sword that was 100 miles long struck the 2 giant palms. The 2 palms collapsed at the same time, and they exploded into pieces. Ji Tianqing's body flashed, and he burrowed into the grayish-white ground again. He used the law of Earth to counterattack. Earth Dragon flips the sky. He merged with the Earth again, and he used all his power to use this technique. He gathered the power of the Earth and turned it into an Earth Dragon that was 100 miles long. It soared into the sky and crashed toward the Emperor of Heaven Extermination. The Emperor of Heaven Extermination teleported away, but the Earth Dragon was too big. He couldn't dodge it in the end, and he was hit by the enormous dragon head. Boom! There was a muffled sound, and the Emperor of Heaven Extermination was sent flying. He crashed into the ruins 100 miles away. The Earth Dragon took the opportunity to counterattack. It raised its head and neck high, and it fell from the sky toward the Emperor of Heaven Extermination. The Emperor of Heaven Extermination was about to crawl out of the ruins. When he saw this, he hurriedly used the Earth Escape technique to escape 10,000 miles away. Boom! There was an earth-shattering sound, and the Earth Dragon crashed into the ruins. Debris and rocks flew into the sky. A 10,000-mile-long trench appeared in the ground. It was like an abyss. The terrifying impact hit the Emperor of Heaven Extermination, and he was blasted out of the ground. He flew back into the sky. His clothes were even more ragged, and the divine crown on his head was shattered. His face was green and red, and he panted furiously. Sky-shattering slash. In his fury, the Emperor of Heaven Extermination took out a 30-meter-long ancient bronze divine saber and slashed at the Earth Dragon. Boom! Crack! A dark purple blade of light that was hundreds of kilometers in length swept through the void and severed the neck of the Dragon of Earth on the spot. Roar! The Earth Dragon let out a painful howl as its upper body collapsed. Its neck and head were both shattered into countless rocks and soil. Its lower body shrank back into the ground and disappeared. The Earth Dragon was cut in half, and Ji Tianqing was severely injured as well. His injuries were even worse. He had to retreat quickly to distance himself from the Emperor of Heaven Extermination. However, the Emperor of Heaven Extermination didn't give up. He wielded the ancient bronze divine saber and slashed down again. Boom! Crack! The 100-mile-long purple light blade slashed into the ground, creating a 10,000-mile-long trench. The indestructible saber chi extended tens of thousands of miles into the ground, creating a huge abyss. Chapter 26:10. Before this, the heaven-punishing emperor had never used a weapon. He probably thought that Ji Tianqing was not powerful enough to make him use a weapon. Now that he had taken out his ancient bronze saber, it was clear that he was going to use his full strength. He sped through the void and chased after Ji Tianqing with his divine saber. Ji Tianqing merged with the earth and became invisible as he sped through the ground. The two of them chased after each other. Everywhere they passed, the ground collapsed and turned into ruins. Countless ravines were left behind. As time passed, the battle became more and more clear. Ji Tianqing's injuries continued to worsen. He had used up a lot of his divine power and could not replenish it. His power was weakening, and his situation was becoming more and more dangerous. The heaven-punishing emperor's divine power was even more vigorous and domineering. It was as if he had an endless supply of divine power. Even though Ji Tianqing's occasional counterattacks would leave him in a very sorry state, Ji Tianqing's face was covered in dust. However, he was only slightly injured and was not in a serious condition. He was confident that he would be able to capture Ji Tianqing. Once Ji Tianqing's divine power was exhausted, he would be at his mercy. On the other side, the Tianqing battleship and the heaven-punishing divine battleship were also engaged in a fierce battle. Both battleships were very agile. They kept teleporting in the void. Most of the time, the two battleships were chasing after each other, looking for each other's weaknesses and taking the opportunity to attack. However, there were also a few times when the two battleships were too close to each other and engaged in close combat. The two battleships had even collided a few times. The shields of both battleships had been shattered and their hulls had been distorted. At the beginning of the battle, the imperial tutor had thought that the heaven-punishing divine battleship was of a higher grade. Whether it was its resources, sturdiness, or the power of its divine cannons, they were all stronger than the Tianqing battleship. However, after 2 days of fighting, he realized that the Tianqing battleship was not to be underestimated. It was no weaker than the heaven-punishing divine battleship. Its defense was very strong, and its divine cannons were very powerful. Most importantly, the Tianqing battleship seemed to have inexhaustible divine power, as if its power would never run out. The more the imperial tutor fought, the more shocked he became. He could not help but wonder if the realmless divine stone had such an effect. It could actually store an endless amount of divine power. The reason why the heaven-punishing divine warships had been able to last for so long was because of the massive amount of godstones and resources stored within the warships. Those godly stones could support the godly warships to travel through the 10 major galaxies. They would not be depleted for 100 years. However, in such a high-intensity battle, the consumption rate of the godly stones would increase by dozens of times. At the thought of this, the imperial tutor began to panic. He wanted to destroy Tianqing's battleship as soon as possible. However, this was a task that could not be completed in a short period of time. Unknowingly, 10 days had passed. Ji Tianqing and Great Emperor Tian Fa chased each other across the stars for 10 days, covering 3 million miles. Compared to the entire planet, 6 million kilometers was only 1% of its surface area. However, the battle between the two was about to end. In these 10 days, the two had exchanged 100,000 blows, destroying 6 million miles of land. Ji Tianqing's injuries continued to worsen. In the end, he was in an extremely tragic state. His physical body was severely damaged. His left leg had been shattered. His internal organs had also been shattered. His entire body was covered in wounds and bloody holes. He was completely covered in blood. Countless pale golden divine bones could be seen in the numerous wounds all over his body. After suffering such heavy injuries, not only was he in a miserable state, but his divine power was also weakened. His consciousness was also a little hazy. Even the speed at which he was traveling through the ground had been reduced by 40%. He could no longer shake off the great Emperor Tian Fa's pursuit. At this point, he knew that he could not defeat the great Emperor Tian Fa. He could only try to escape. However, the great Emperor Tian Fa kept pestering him. He had no chance of escaping at all. Moreover, he had managed to shake off the great Emperor Tian Fa's pursuit and escape on his own. However, Tianqing's battleship could not escape. Since he was going to escape, he had to bring White Dragon and the 3 divine beasts with him. Therefore, Ji Tianqing used his divine soul to send an order to White Dragon, who was tens of thousands of miles away. White Dragon, come and meet up with me. Given our current situation, we have no chance of winning. We can only think of a way to escape from this place and shake off the great Emperor Tian Fa. White Dragon received the order and stopped pestering the heaven-slaying divine battleship. He hurried to meet up with Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing also tried his best to avoid the great Emperor Tian Fa's attacks. He tried his best to stall for time. Very quickly, 4 hours passed. The Tianqing's battleship finally caught up with Ji Tianqing and met up with him. At this moment, Ji Tianqing had exchanged a few hundred blows with the great Emperor Tian Fa. His injuries had worsened. His divine power was almost depleted. His combat strength had decreased by 70%. He was at the end of his rope. He tried his best to leap up from the ground and was about to fly into the Tianqing's battleship. Just then, the heaven-slaying divine battleship caught up with him. It turned on its main cannon and shot out 2 purple light pillars. Boom! Boom! 2 dazzling purple light pillars with destructive power shot toward Ji Tianqing. However, Ji Tianqing was severely injured and could not dodge the attack. At this critical moment, White Dragon decisively turned the Tianqing's battleship around and stood between Ji Tianqing and the purple light pillars. Kaboom! With a deafening sound, the 2 purple light pillars hit the Tianqing's battleship. The golden light shield of the Tianqing's battleship was smashed into pieces. 2 huge dents appeared on the battleship's hull. Cracks spread all over the hull. The violent impact threw the battleship into the air. It rolled and crashed into the depths of the void. Without a doubt, the Tianqing's battleship had been severely damaged. However, it had blocked the heaven-slaying divine battleship's attack and saved Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing took this opportunity to enter the battleship. He was temporarily safe. However, the Tianqing's battleship was tumbling in the void at high speed. It had temporarily lost control. After the battleship flew a few hundred miles away, White Dragon finally regained control of the battleship. However, an even greater danger came. Great Emperor Fa, who had been waiting for a chance to attack, unleashed his full strength and used his trump card. Sky-piercing. He roared with a voice as loud as a bell, then threw out a 1,000-mile-wide, dark purple palm, smashing down from the sky. Kaboom! Before White Dragon could control the battleship to dodge the attack, the battleship was hit by the huge palm. There was a deafening sound. The 2,000 feet long Skyline battleship was smacked until it deformed, twisting together like a fried dough twist. The next moment, the huge palm closed around the Tianqing's battleship and captured it on the spot. The huge palm was extremely powerful. It held the Tianqing's battleship tightly as if it was holding a small fish. No matter how hard the battleship struggled, it could not break free. It's over. White Dragon and the three godly beasts thought at the same time. Their eyes dimmed. However, Ji Tianqing, who was severely injured, made a decision without hesitation. Swoosh! He left the battleship in a flash. At the same time, he used his divine will to control the Tianqing's battleship. It shrunk to the size of a fingernail and entered his body. As for himself, he was unable to escape the shackles of the giant palm and was thus captured. Chapter 26:11. Ha 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 ha, the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher laughed and flew to the side of the giant palm. He placed his hands behind his back and looked at the giant palm with a cold smile. Ji Tianqing. This is what happens when you go against me. Now, you only have two choices. Submit to me, or die. As he spoke, the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher secretly controlled the giant palm to crush Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing was gripped tightly by the gigantic palm, withstanding an unparalleled pressure. His body was bent over, and his whole body was covered in cold sweat. His body was special and had been tempered thousands of times. It was extremely tough and powerful. However, he was severely injured and could not withstand the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher's attack. Not only was his body becoming more and more crooked, but his bones were also cracking. Many of them were broken. When he heard the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher's voice, he remained silent and did not respond. He only tried his best to resist. The great Emperor of Heaven Punisher saw that he was stubbornly resisting and laughed coldly. Ha! If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? You killed the Southern Expedition Marshal and killed so many of my warriors. Even if I cut you into pieces and kill you over and over again, it would not be enough to vent my anger. However, I am magnanimous and forgiving. I am not a vengeful person. For a genius with such outstanding talent and outstanding strength like you, this emperor also cherishes talent and can't bear to kill you just like that. It was obvious that the great Emperor of Heaven Punisher was trying to persuade Ji Tianqing to surrender. Ji Tianqing, I will give you a chance. As long as you're willing to submit to me, I'll write off everything that happened before, and I won't pursue it. Not only that, when the position of the Southern Expedition Marshal becomes vacant, I will announce to the world that you will be the new Southern Expedition Marshal. From today onwards, you will be my right-hand man, my trusted general. Moreover, I will reward you with heavenly god-level skills and weapons to help you reach the peak of the true god realm as soon as possible. I believe you know that in the mortal world, the 9th level true god realm is the limit. No one can reach the heavenly god realm. However, I have received a divine decree from the upper realm and have received divine grace. I can help you ascend to the upper realm and break through to the heavenly god realm. At this point, the Emperor of Heaven Law smiled with satisfaction and said in a serious tone, Ji Tianqing, this is my sincerity. I hope you will consider it carefully. Great Emperor Tian Fa's words were very persuasive. The vast majority of true divinity powerhouses would find it hard to refuse such generous conditions. They would definitely be moved. However, in Ji Tianqing's ears, these words were especially laughable. How could the former unparalleled divine king be tempted by these insignificant benefits? How could he submit to a puny true god? Ji Tianqing's blood-stained face revealed a contemptuous sneer. He said in a low voice, "Great Emperor Tian Fa, your conditions are indeed tempting," so, halfway through his speech, he stopped abruptly at the most crucial moment. The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing listened quietly but did not hear anything else. He hurriedly asked, "So what? Do you accept or reject?" Ji Tianqing did not answer. While the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing was distracted, he suddenly shrunk his body until he was as small as a speck of dust. Whoosh! He instantly unleashed his strongest power and passed through the gaps in the giant palm in an attempt to escape. However, the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing was a cunning old fox. He had already prepared for this. How could he let him escape so easily? Swoosh! With a flash of purple light, the giant palm turned into a huge purple ball of light and sealed Ji Tianqing inside. The purple ball of light was like a cage that trapped Ji Tianqing firmly. Unless he could break the cage, there was no way he could escape. He had just flown a few thousand feet away when he slammed into the purple barrier and was sent flying back. He was completely helpless. He could only return to his original form and give up on resisting for now. The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing waved his hand. The purple ball of light shrunk to 3 feet tall and stopped in front of him. His gaze passed through the purple ball of light and stared at Ji Tianqing. With a mocking sneer, he said, "Ha ha ha. This emperor already knew that you were full of tricks and extremely cunning. How could I let you escape? Don't even think about it. Once you're in my hands, you'll never be able to escape. Now, I'm going to ask you one last time. Surrender or die." Ji Tianqing furrowed his brows with a solemn expression. In this situation, even if he had thousands of tricks up his sleeve, he could not use them. He remembered the heavenly divine artifact he had obtained in the purple divine palace, the heavenly star shuttle. However, he was sealed in the purple ball of light and the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing was staring at him. He had no chance to use the heavenly star shuttle. He had no choice but to stall for time. Wait. Ji Tianqing stared coldly at the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing. He said in a low voice, "The Heaven Punishing tribe has always been cunning and cruel. How can I trust you?" Ha ha ha. The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing sneered when he saw that Su Mo had changed his mind and was about to surrender. Ji Tianqing. Don't forget your current situation. Whether you believe me or not, you don't have a choice. The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing tribe meant that if Su Mo did not want to die, he would have to surrender to him. As for whether or not he would keep his promise, that would depend on his mood. You. Ji Tianqing pretended to be angry and glared at the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing tribe. He hesitated for a moment before he said, "All right, I'll believe you for now. However, things are not that simple. What do you want? You're smart. You saw through me immediately." The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing tribe smiled proudly. "Although I value talents, I won't give you preferential treatment just because you're talented. In comparison, I'm more interested in your battleship. Tell me, how did you build your battleship? It's not a heavenly god-grade battleship, but it's as powerful and effective as a heavenly god-grade battleship. I'm very curious about that." Ji Tianqing's heart skipped a beat. He sneered to himself. He's here for the Dawn Stones. He wants to investigate the origin and effectiveness of the Dawn Stones. That's his real motive. Understanding this, Ji Tianqing pretended to be confused and said, "My battleship? I built it myself. Apart from the heavenly god-grade formation, there's nothing special about it. The great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe frowned. He sized Su Mo up and said in a mocking tone, "Ha ha ha, is that so? I don't think so. Ji Tianqing, you're a smart man. I won't beat around the bush with you. Tell me the truth. Was your battleship built with boundless divine stones?" Boundless divine stone. Ji Tianqing pretended to be puzzled as he looked at him and asked, "What is that?" "I came across those special divine stones by chance and built them into a battleship." The great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe's smile grew wider when he saw Su Mo revealing the truth. He continued to ask, "Very good. Then tell me, where did you get those divine stones?" Download address. Chapter 26:12. Back in the Five Elements world, the Heaven Punisher tribe was the first to discover the Dawn Stones. Moreover, the Dawn Stones were so powerful that even Ji Tianqing was shocked. Therefore, he was not surprised that the Heaven Punisher cared so much about the Dawn Stones. Faced with the Heaven Punisher's question, Su Mo naturally lied. "I found those black godly stones on a certain planet when I was traveling in the starry sky." The Heaven Punisher frowned and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Obviously, he knew that Ji Tianqing was lying. However, he did not expose him. He continued to ask, "Which planet?" "The Five Elements world." Ji Tianqing's heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, if the Heaven Punisher knows about the Five Elements world, Marshal Nan must have reported it to him. If that's the case, he might not be here for the Purple Cloud planet. He might be here for the Dawn Stones. That's right. That must be the reason. Otherwise, how could he have reached the Purple Cloud planet so quickly? There's only one explanation. When he found out about the Dawn Stone's powerful effects, he had already set off for the Purple Cloud planet. Thinking of that, Ji Tianqing nodded expressionlessly and said, "Perhaps. I don't remember the name of that star either." The Heaven Punisher's eyes turned even colder. He asked in a low voice, "When and under what circumstances did you find the boundless divine stones in the Five Elements world?" This is an important question. You'd better think carefully before you answer me. Otherwise, I'll let you taste the most painful feeling in the world. Seeing how serious and cold the Heaven Punisher was, Ji Tianqing suddenly thought of something. Previously, on the Purple Cloud planet, God Master Silvermoon had told him that the Heaven Punisher tribe was protected by the upper realms deities. In other words, the Heaven Punisher tribe was a deity's lackey. The Heaven Punisher seemed to be very powerful and had dominated all 3,000 worlds. However, he was actually working for the deities. Ji Tianqing asked tentatively, "Heaven Punisher, since you want the boundless divine stones so much, I'll tell you the truth and help you find a large number of them. How will you reward me?" Martial Emperor Tian Fa frowned. He suppressed his anger and said in a deep voice, "I'll fulfill my promise to you." Ji Tianqing shook his head and sneered playfully, "Ha ha ha. I don't care about that little favor." He dared to negotiate with Great Emperor Tian Fa. This infuriated the Emperor of Heaven Extermination even more. His murderous intent surged and he wanted to rip Yi Futian's head off. However, in order to consider the overall situation and find out the source of the boundless divine stone, the Emperor of Heaven's punishment could only suppress his anger and ask in a deep voice, "Then what do you want?" Ji Tianqing said without hesitation, 1 Heavenly God's Law, 2 Heavenly God Weapons, 3 Heavenly God Grade Cultivation Techniques. These are my conditions. None of them can be missing. Bastard! Emperor Tian Fa could no longer hold back his anger. He yelled murderously, "Who do you think you are? How dare you negotiate with me?" Ji Tianqing was not afraid at all. He smiled confidently and said, "You can only choose to accept or reject me. Of course, if you reject me, I won't reveal a single clue even if I have to die." The Emperor of Heaven's punishment was furious. He glared at Yi Futian and cursed, "You little bastard. I'll kill you now and then go to the Five Elements world and search the entire planet. Do you think you have the right to threaten me? Ha ha ha, then what are you waiting for?" Ji Tianqing was even more certain of his guess. He laughed coldly and said, "Hurry up and kill me. You." The Emperor of Heaven's punishment instinctively raised his palms. He was about to activate his divine skill to kill Ji Tianqing on the spot. However, just as his divine skill was about to burst out, he calmed down and suppressed his murderous intent. After taking a deep breath, the Emperor of Heaven's punishment glared at Ji Tianqing and said coldly, "Kid, my time is precious, therefore, I can consider your conditions." When Ji Tianqing heard this, a smile appeared on his face. "Ha, just as I expected. The Emperor of Heaven's punishment would never have the Heavenly God's law, Heavenly God's weapon, and 3 Heavenly God's skills. However, since he agreed to this condition, it means that he can contact the deities in the upper realm and ask for these things. This means that the Dawn Stones are more important than the Purple Cloud Starfield. In fact, the Emperor of Heaven's punishment might have reported this to the deities in the upper realm. The deities in the upper realm are also very interested in the Dawn Stones. That's why they ordered the Emperor of Heaven's punishment to investigate this matter thoroughly and get his hands on the Dawn Stones. That's why the Emperor of Heaven's punishment is looking for the Dawn Stones at all costs. Ji Tianqing's test was a success. He had gathered this information from the Emperor of Heaven's punishment's reaction. However, he could not bring himself to be happy. Instead, his heart sank. Even I, the former deity king, am tempted by the Dawn Stones, let alone the deities behind the Emperor of Heaven's punishment. If the deities in the upper realm want the Dawn Stones too, we'll be in trouble. The Five Elements world will never have a peaceful life again. The Emperor of Heaven's punishment weighed the pros and cons and finally made up his mind. He stared sharply at Ji Tianqing, nodded and said, "Ji Tianqing, I can agree to the conditions you mentioned just now. However, you have to hand over the warship. Also, you have to submit to me and bring me into the Five Elements world to find the boundless divine stone." Ji Tianqing pretended to hesitate for a moment. Then, he gritted his teeth and nodded. "All right, it's a deal then. To prove your sincerity, you have to remove the seal first. Then, I'll give you the warship." The Emperor of Heaven's punishment sneered. "Ji Tianqing, are you too naive or do you think I'm stupid? Once I remove the seal, you'll run for your life." As he spoke, the Emperor of Heaven's punishment waved his hand and used a divine art to control the purple light. It turned into a purple chain as thick as an arm and bound Ji Tianqing tightly. This way, Ji Tianqing would have a chance to move but he would not be able to escape. If he tried to escape, the Emperor of Heaven's punishment could control the purple chain and drag him back. "Now, hand over the warship." Emperor Tian Fa stared at Ji Tianqing with burning eyes and ordered in a deep voice. Ji Tianqing did not resist. As he took out the Tianqing warship, he secretly gathered his divine power and wrapped it around the heavenly star shuttle in his body. The ancient heavenly star shuttle had shrunk to the size of a strand of hair and was hidden in his mind. As the divine power entered the heavenly star shuttle, the ancient heavenly divine weapon was activated and shone with dazzling starlight. At the same time, the Tianqing warship flew out from Ji Tianqing's forehead and floated in front of him. The warship expanded to the size of a palm. It spun slowly and shone with a mysterious black light. The mysterious aura and powerful energy of the Dawn Stones were on full display at this moment. The Emperor of Heaven's punishment was immediately attracted. He stared at the Tianqing warship and observed it carefully. Chapter 26:13. Swoosh! The power of the heavenly star shuttle exploded. It released a mysterious starlight that enveloped Ji Tianqing. In an instant, he was enveloped by the starlight and disappeared before the great Emperor of Heaven's eyes. The mysterious and powerful power brought him through the void and 1 billion miles of space. He arrived at the nearest star. He was bound by the purple light chains and could not move freely. He could not use his divine power to fight back or use his sword techniques or divine skills. However, he only used a bit of divine power in his mind to activate the heavenly star shuttle while the great Emperor of Heaven was distracted. The great Emperor of Heaven's path did not expect Ji Tianqing to have such a trump card. When he sensed that something was wrong and tried to control the purple light chains to catch Ji Tianqing, it was too late. In a flash of starlight, Ji Tianqing disappeared before the great Emperor of Heaven's path. Even the palm-sized Tianqing battleship was taken away by Ji Tianqing. The great Emperor of Heaven's path was stunned. He stared at the void, dumbfounded. He was so shocked that he could not speak. After a long while, he came to his senses. He quickly released his divine senses to cover an area of 80,000 miles. In the void, this was the limit of what his divine sense could reach. However, there was nothing within 80,000 miles except for him and the heaven-slaying divine battleship. Ji Tianqing had already run far away and disappeared without a trace. The great Emperor of Heaven's path was so angry that his face turned black. Killing intent surged in his chest. Ah! That D*MNB* starred. How dare he escape from under my nose? How is that possible? What did he do? Even my sky-sealing chains could not control him. The great Emperor of Heaven's path had been able to obtain Ji Tianqing, the battleship, and the boundless divine stone. However, in the blink of an eye, the cooked duck had flown away. The great Emperor of Heaven's path could not accept this result. He was so furious that he wanted to massacre an entire world to appease his anger. A moment later, the heaven-slaying divine battleship flew over from afar and stopped beside the great Emperor of Heaven. Shwa! Imperial Tutor Heaven Punishing flew out of the ship and arrived beside Emperor Heaven Punishing. He asked curiously, "Emperor, what just happened? Where is Ji Tianqing?" As he asked, the Imperial Tutor also looked around, searching for Ji Tianqing's whereabouts. Martial Emperor Tianfan's face darkened. He clenched his teeth and said coldly, "He ran away." What? The Imperial Tutor of the Heavens widened his eyes in shock. He asked in disbelief, He actually, escaped from your hands? How was this possible? Wasn't he severely injured by you and unable to fight back?" The Imperial Tutor's question made Emperor Heaven Punisher feel even more humiliated. His face darkened even more. That bastard is very cunning. Even if he is at the end of his rope, he still has a trump card that he has never used. He didn't know what kind of divine artifact he used, or what kind of divine ability, but he actually managed to teleport away. At that time, my sky-sealing chain was still binding him. That mysterious power forcefully cut off my connection with the sky-sealing chain and took him away from this place. The Imperial Tutor of the Heavens was even more shocked and speechless. After a long silence, he asked tentatively, "Emperor, what should we do next? Should we continue to hunt down Ji Tianqing?" Emperor Heaven Punisher's face darkened. He shouted coldly, "He has already escaped without a trace. I can't sense the sky-sealing chain's aura either. How am I supposed to hunt him down? Let him live for a few more years. I will deal with the purple cloud planet first. Then, I will personally head to the Five Elements world to look for the boundless divine stone. Once I have dealt with the boundless divine stone, I will hunt him down." The Imperial Tutor of the Heavens thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. Emperor Heaven Punisher is wise. Ji Tianqing's life is nothing compared to the boundless divine stone. With that, the Emperor Heaven Punisher and the Imperial Tutor of the Heavens turned around and entered the ship. Soon, they left the abandoned planet. The Heavens Punisher of the Heavens Punisher returned to the void and flew back to the purple cloud planet. At the same time, in the void 1 billion miles away from the abandoned planet, there was a tiny, barren planet. This star was the same as the abandoned star. It was a lifeless star, and it was very close to the star. However, this planet was grayish-brown in color and only had a diameter of a few million miles. It was dozens of times smaller than the abandoned planet. This was because this planet was much older. More than half of it had been eroded by the void. In another 20 to 30,000 years at most, this useless star would completely turn into dust and disappear into the void. Swoosh! On the surface of the grayish-brown planet, a dazzling ray of starlight suddenly lit up on the ground that was full of holes. After the starlight dissipated, a young man in ragged clothes and covered in golden blood appeared. This man was in a terrible state. His body was covered in wounds and bloody holes. His aura was very weak and he was on the verge of passing out. Plop, just as he landed on the grayish-brown rocky hill, he stumbled and fell to the ground. Huff! Huff! He lay on the cold rock and panted heavily. Golden blood kept flowing out of his nose and mouth. Emperor Heaven Punisher. I, Ji Tianqing, will remember today's grudge. One day, I will pay you back 100-fold. Not just you, but the entire Heaven Punisher race will be turned to dust. Ji Tianqing closed his eyes as he spoke in a sinister voice. He had used the Heavenly Star Shuttle to successfully escape from Emperor Heaven Punisher's clutches. However, he still remembered the complicated look in God Lord Silvermoon's eyes as she died in the divine flames. He also could not forget the pain and trauma he had suffered over the last 10 days. If he did not tear Emperor Heaven Punisher to pieces and destroy the entire Heaven Punisher race, how could he resolve the hatred in his heart? After panting for a few moments, he took out the Tianqing battleship and stepped onto it with great difficulty. The white dragon and the 3 divine beasts hastily went up to him upon seeing his return. Master, how are your injuries? Old Ji, how did you get so injured? Hurry! Don't just stand there. Help old Ji get treated. Everyone, help me. Let's circulate our qi to treat old Ji's injuries. Ji Tianqing waved his hand when he saw how worried and anxious they were. He said in a low voice, "What are you panicking about? I won't die yet. I don't need you to heal me. White Dragon, return to the 5 Elements world immediately. The 3 of you, go repair the battleship." White Dragon acknowledged the order and hurriedly piloted the Tianqing battleship into the void, returning to the 5 Elements world. The 3 divine beasts were still worried. They watched as Ji Tianqing entered the secret chamber before continuing to repair the battleship's damage. Very quickly, the battleship regained its calm. White Dragon focused on piloting the battleship and returning to the 5 Elements world as quickly as possible. The 3 divine beasts each occupied a secret chamber, silently circulating their qi and cultivating. Ji Tianqing sat alone in one of the secret chambers. He took out a few origin stones and absorbed the divine power within to quickly recover his strength and injuries. The next few months were smooth sailing. There was only eternal coldness and gloom in the void. When Ji Tianqing and the others had left the 5 Elements world, it had taken them nearly a year to reach Purple Heaven Star. Chapter 26:14. That evening, the Tianqing battleship returned to the 5 Elements world and arrived outside the Divine Light Seal. The dazzling golden light barrier was as dazzling as ever, sealing the 5 Elements world. Bai Long used his secret technique to control the Tianqing battleship and tried to attack the golden light barrier. Kaboom! With a deafening explosion, the Tianqing battleship crashed into the golden light barrier but was bounced back. That incomparably huge golden barrier did not even have the slightest crack. It only violently fluctuated a few dozen times. The White Dragon had long expected such an outcome. Not only was he not disappointed, he even smiled and muttered to himself, "The God Spirit seal of the 5 Elements world is indeed powerful and unparalleled. Even a heavenly god-level battleship cannot break the seal and enter the 5 Elements world." Even the great Emperor of Heaven Slayer's battleship would have to find cracks and gaps. In the past, when the Southern Marshal and General Dragon Subduing were defeated in the Five Elements world, they could use divine artifacts to escape. Back then, Bai Long had suspected that the divine light seal of the Five Elements world was so weak. Now, he understood. There was something special about this golden light barrier. It was strong on the outside but weak on the inside. It was very difficult to enter the Five Elements world from the void. The divine light barrier was extremely strong. However, it was much easier to leave the Five Elements world and enter the void. As such, the divine light barrier's seal on the Five Elements world was weakened, but its protection of the Five Elements world was very strong. This discovery made Bai Long think of a problem. It seems that the divine light barrier's main purpose is not to seal the Five Elements world, but to protect this world. The White Dragon sighed thoughtfully. Then, he controlled the battleship to fly in the void. He sped around the divine light barrier, looking for cracks and gaps. Half a month later, he finally found a gap. It was a gap with a radius of 100 miles. There was a sharp star remnant in it. Under Bai Long's control, the Tianqing battleship shrunk 100 times. It successfully passed through the gap between the star remnant and the divine light barrier and returned to the Five Elements world. Unfortunately, the battleship appeared on an unfamiliar continent. This continent was very vast, but it revealed a boundless primitive atmosphere. Primitive forests and huge demon beasts could be seen everywhere. After flying for over 100,000 miles, the battleship finally found a large but crude city. The tall city wall was built with huge rocks, and the buildings in the city were tall and rough, completely different from those of the human race. One after another, half-beastmen wearing animal skins with the heads of all kinds of beasts, bearing their fangs, lived peacefully in the city. Seeing this, the White Dragon immediately understood. This was the Wild Continent. Among the continents of the Five Elements world, this was the oldest and most primitive continent. This vast continent maintained many of the features of ancient times. More than 80% of the intelligent races on the Wild Continent were half-beastmen. Beastmen did not have high intelligence, so their martial arts and livelihood were somewhat backward. The only thing worth praising was that the beastmen had deep-rooted racial beliefs. On the Wild Continent, any city where beastmen gathered would definitely have an ancient temple nearby. Regardless of whether it was this life or the previous life, Bai Long had never come to the wasteland continent. He was filled with curiosity about the desolate continent. He wanted to travel around and explore more secrets. However, time didn't allow it. He could only use brute force to find the strongest person on the Wild Continent and inquire about the whereabouts of Xian Pin Gate. Xian Pin Gate was also known as the Sky's Scar. It was a shortcut from the four lower continents to the Shenwu continent. 10 days later, the White Dragon found the Berserk Beast Warlord as he wished and inquired about the whereabouts of Xian Pin Gate. The Berserk Beast Warlord was one of the strongest people on the Wild Continent, and his strength had reached the second level of the primordial spirit realm. He ruled over more than 30 different races of half-beastmen, spanning millions of miles and over 1 billion people. Of course, the Berserk Beast Warlord was as weak as an ant in front of the White Dragon. When the White Dragon interrogated the Berserk Beast Warlord about the whereabouts of Xian Pin Gate, he could only use 1% of his divine power, as he was afraid that he would accidentally kill the Berserk Beast Warlord. After investigating the whereabouts of Xian Pin Gate, the White Dragon hurriedly drove his battleship back. Passing through the gate, he finally returned to the Shenwu continent. After a few twists and turns, the Tianqing battleship finally returned to the north of the ruins of God after 5 days. Late that night, the ruins of God was covered in clouds, and it was as gloomy as ever. The Tianqing battleship reached the peak of a barren mountain and stopped there. Whoosh! With a flash of light, the white-robed Ji Tianqing flew out of the battleship. After 10 months of secluded cultivation, his injuries had been temporarily suppressed, and his divine power had recovered significantly. He had also changed into a new set of clothes, which made him look less miserable. However, the hideous wounds that covered his entire body had yet to heal, and the injuries to his internal organs and spirit still needed to be treated. His strength and aura were also very weak. He put away the Tianqing battleship and brought out the small golden pagoda. He wanted to bring the white dragon and the 3 divine beasts into the pagoda. When the white dragon saw the small golden pagoda in Lu Yin's hand, it was suddenly startled, and its expression became somewhat strange. I seem to have done something stupid. The white dragon muttered softly, and its expression was somewhat awkward. Ji Tianqing glanced at it and asked, "What stupid thing? Tell us so that we can all have some fun." The 3 divine beasts immediately became interested, and their eyes widened as they looked at the white dragon expectantly. After all, from what they knew, the white dragon was a very knowledgeable and cunning fellow. He had never been taken advantage of before. Now, he actually admitted that he had done something stupid. This was unheard of. The white dragon became even more embarrassed. He smiled bitterly and said, "I should have known that Master had the secret key to the pagoda. After entering the elemental world, Master only needed to use the secret key, and we could instantly return to the pagoda. In the end, I wandered around the wild continent for 10 days, and spent a lot of effort to investigate the gate of Xian Pin. Now that I think about it, the wild beast war emperor who was scared to death by me was really unlucky." Ha 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 ha, Xian Yu and the black dragon did not give him any face, and they immediately laughed out loud. Ji Tianqing also could not help but laugh softly. Even the most honest Lan Kuan could not help but laugh secretly. Seeing this scene, the white dragon explained seriously, "Everyone, don't laugh. Actually, I was just curious about the wild continent, so I did it on purpose. I wandered around the wild continent for 10 days, and I discovered many new and interesting things. Master, after you have recovered from your injuries, I will tell you all about them one by one." Ji Tianqing stopped laughing and nodded. "All right, I will believe you for now." After that, he injected his divine power into the golden pagoda. Swoosh! The golden pagoda lit up with a holy light, and it enveloped Ji Tianqing, the white dragon, and the 3 divine beasts. In the next moment, they disappeared from the peak of the barren mountain and entered the Jiutian 10 Extremes Tower. After passing through the 5th level of the pagoda, they quickly entered the 6th level and returned to the distorted space. Chapter 26:15. For the past 5 years, the situation on Shenwu continent had stabilized. Ji Ku and Yunyao had been cultivating in seclusion in the tower, working hard to break through to the true God realm. In their free time, the two would teach Chen Chen and Yi and guide them in their cultivation. Ji Ku controlled the Jiutian 10 Absolutes Tower. When Ji Tianqing, the White Dragon, and the others entered the tower, she immediately sensed them. She quickly woke Yunyao up and went to welcome Ji Tianqing together. Over the past 2 years, she and Yunyao had been worried and expectant, hoping day and night that Ji Tianqing would return safely. They knew that the Heaven Punishers were very powerful and had many powerhouses. Ji Tianqing had only brought the White Dragon and 3 divine beasts, but he had dared to go to Zixiao planet to seek revenge on Marshal Nan. It would definitely be very dangerous. However, they did not have a divine warship, and they could only rely on their physical bodies to traverse the void, which would be even more dangerous. If anything happened, not only would their lives be in danger, but they would also cause trouble for Ji Tianqing. Moreover, the 5 Elements realm needed a protector, and they needed to stay on Shenwu continent to control the situation. Thus, the two weighed the pros and cons for a long time before deciding to stay in the tower and wait for Ji Tianqing to return. Now, 5 years had passed, and Ji Tianqing had finally returned. Swoosh! Not long after, Ji Ku and Yunyao flew over and stood in front of Ji Tianqing. The two looked at Ji Tianqing with shining eyes, sizing him up from head to toe twice. Seeing that he had returned safely, the two of them finally felt relieved and heaved a sigh of relief. Tianqing, you're finally back. Yunyao looked at Ji Tianqing with a gentle gaze, her clear eyes covered with a layer of mist, but her gaze was bright. Her tone was filled with surprise, as well as a sense of relief. Ji Ke also looked at Ji Tianqing emotionally and said in a choked voice, "Big brother Tianqing, it's great that you can come back safely. During the 5 years you were gone, eldest senior sister and I were worried about you." For a long time, eldest senior sister felt uneasy. Fortunately, the heavens have eyes. You're finally back. Ji Tianqing nodded his head and revealed a gentle smile as he consoled, "Back then, I left without saying goodbye because I had no choice. I've made you worry for the past 5 years. But it's all in the past. Aren't I fine now?" As he spoke, Ji Tianqing opened his arms to welcome them. He wanted to embrace Yunyao and Ji Ke. But at this moment, a little girl dressed in a light yellow dress ran out from behind Yunyao and happily jumped into Ji Tianqing's arms. "Father, you're finally back. Yaya has been missing you every day." The little girl was beautiful and cute. Her skin was crystal clear and delicate. Her clothes and temperament were noble and holy. She had a head of soft, black hair. She had a neat fringe and 2 ponytails. She looked especially cute and playful. Especially her big, clear eyes. They were innocent and pure, without a trace of impurity. She jumped into Ji Tianqing's arms with joy. She wrapped her arms around Ji Tianqing's neck and buried her head in Ji Tianqing's chest intimately. Ji Tianqing's body stiffened for a moment. Then, he relaxed. A big smile appeared on his face, and there was even a hint of affection. He reached out his arms and hugged the little girl. His palms gently stroked her head as he smiled and said, "It's only been 5 years since we last met. Yaya has grown taller again." This incomparably beautiful and cute little girl was Yaya. She had inherited Yunyao's beauty and temperament, as well as Ji Tianqing's brows and eyes. That was why she was so noble and cute. In the near future, when she grew up, she would definitely become a peerless beauty whose name would shake the world. At this moment, another little boy dressed in a brocade robe walked out from behind Ji Ke. Although he looked to be only 4 or 5 years old, he was exceptionally handsome. There was even a hint of coldness between his brows. He was as cold as an iceberg. He arrived in front of Ji Tianqing and bowed respectfully. He said in a tender voice, "This child respectfully welcomes father's return." This little adult-like boy was Qinchin, Ji Wuhan. Ji Tianqing reached out a hand and held Qinchin's arm, helping him up. After carefully sizing him up, he revealed a gratified smile and nodded. "Qinchin, looks like you haven't slacked off in these 5 years. Your skills have improved again." A hint of joy flashed through Qinchin's clear eyes when he was praised. He hurriedly cupped his hands in greeting and said, "Father, you flatter me. This is all thanks to mother and second mother. It's because of their careful guidance that Qinchin can improve so much." Second mother. Ji Tianqing raised his brows, his expression somewhat strange. This form of address made him feel somewhat awkward and uncomfortable. Ji Ke was also somewhat embarrassed when he heard it. He turned his head away and didn't say anything. However, Yunyao was afraid that she would be embarrassed, so she explained, "Tianqing, although Qinchin and Yaya are our children, Ke is family with us. Qinchin and Yaya are also her children. She also treats them as her own. That's why I let them call her that and treat her with motherly respect." Ji Tianqing was relieved and nodded in agreement. Yaya kept hugging Ji Tianqing's neck and stayed in Ji Tianqing's arms, unwilling to let go. While everyone was talking, she opened her eyes wide and carefully observed Ji Tianqing. After everyone was done talking, she also saw some clues and immediately revealed a worried expression. "Father, how did you get hurt? Let Yaya take a look at your injuries." As she spoke, Yaya used the God's Eye secret technique to check on Ji Tianqing's injuries. In a short moment, she saw some clues and was immediately on the verge of tears. She became even more worried. "Father, your injuries are so serious. Not only is your divine body heavily injured, there are more than 200 wounds all over your body. Even your divine soul is injured. Father, which heartless scoundrel did this to you?" Although Yaya was still young and her strength was only at the tribulation realm, she had many innate talents. The God's Eye secret technique was one of them. It was inherited from Ji Tianqing. She looked at Ji Tianqing with tears in her eyes. Her cute little face was filled with concern and love. Yun Yao and Ji Ku naturally saw that Ji Tianqing was injured and hurriedly comforted her. "Yaya, Father went to the other side of the starry sky to deal with evil people on a certain planet. Although Father is heavily injured, he will never be defeated. He will recover soon." Chen Chen was also worried for Ji Tianqing. Her eyes were filled with anger. She clenched her fists and said firmly, "Father, although I'm young, I'm willing to lend you a hand and kill those evil people." Seeing this, Ji Tianqing hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, "Yaya, Chen Chen, you don't have to worry about Father. These injuries are nothing to me. Martial artists of my generation are born in a storm of blood. We will rise from the shadows of swords and blades. If we don't experience hardships and dangers, how can we become an unparalleled powerhouse and turn the world around?" Chapter 26:16. After hearing Ji Tianqing's words, Yun Yao, Ji Ku, and Bai Long nodded in agreement. Chen Chen and Yiya were intelligent and they understood what he meant. They nodded to show that they would remember what he said. The family was reunited and they chatted happily for a while before they went their separate ways. Yun Yao and Ji Ku took the two children and went back to cultivate. Ji Tianqing found a secluded place and began to recuperate in seclusion. Bai Long and the three spiritual beasts were tired after fighting for 5 years. They went into seclusion to recuperate. When the space was distorted, silence was restored. Time was flowing at 50 times the normal speed, and it was silently passing by. Under normal circumstances, Ji Tianqing would need at least 40 years to recover from his injuries. However, he had a large number of divine elixirs and dawn stones. With the help of the divine elixirs and dawn stones, his injuries healed at an incredible speed. He estimated that he would be fully healed in a dozen years. The miraculous effects of the dawn stones were incredible. The happiness of having a large number of dawn stones was not something that others could understand. For example, the Emperor of Heaven Punishing had been drooling over the dawn stones for a long time. However, he could not get his hands on them. He had finally captured Ji Tianqing, but he had let Ji Tianqing slip away under his nose. For more than a year, he had been suppressing the anger in his heart and he could not get rid of it. Even though he had broken into Purple Cloud Star and killed the martial gods of several continents in an overbearing manner. Even though the imperial tutor had led many martial gods and guards to conquer 5 continents, he had taken control of the entire Purple Cloud Star. The Emperor of Heaven Punishing was still unhappy. He had brought too few people with him to Purple Cloud Star this time. There were only the Imperial Tutor Fa Tian, 36 Martial God Realm Guards, and 2,000 Martial Sage Realm Black Armored Soldiers. This was not enough to take control of the 5 continents. They could only take control of the leaders of the Holy Kingdoms and turn the leaders of the various tribes and forces into puppets. They would need a few more years to take full control of Purple Cloud Star. Of course, they would need a large number of heaven-punishing elites. The heaven-punishing Great Emperor had no choice but to summon the old subordinates of the Southern Conquering Marshal and rush to the Purple Cloud planet. Dozens of martial god realm captains and thousands of black-armored warriors were scattered around the hundreds of stars around Purple Cloud Star. When Ji Tianqing had invaded the Purple Firmament Star, killed Marshal Jinan, and destroyed the heaven-punishing Divine Palace, these people had scattered and fled. They were scattered across the various stars. Some were hiding, while others were still killing and committing evil deeds. After receiving the order from Great Emperor Tian Fa, they were all extremely excited. They rushed to the purple cloud star with anticipation. However, it would take at least a year for these captains and black-armored warriors to reach Xixiao planet. At the same time, the great emperor of the heaven punishing encountered another problem. Back then, after Marshal Nan Zhennan had occupied Purple Cloud planet, he had sent him a message to report the situation on Purple Cloud planet. The South Conquering Marshal had mentioned the Purple Heaven Cave before. He said it was the most sacred place on the Purple Heaven planet and the most mysterious secret realm. Not only was there an abundance of divine power and cultivation resources, but there was also a huge secret hidden within. Unfortunately, the South Conquering Marshal was not powerful enough and did not have enough time to explore it. Now, the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing had occupied Purple Cloud planet. He also wanted to enter the Purple Heaven Cave to see what secrets and mysteries there were. However, something awkward happened. The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing could not find the Purple Heaven Cave. After racking his brains to no avail, he asked the Imperial Tutor to investigate this matter. The Imperial Tutor interrogated more than 10 leaders of powerful clans and finally found some information. The legendary Purple Heaven Cave was the cave abode of the Purple Heaven Venerate. This secret realm was very mysterious and had a very high status. It was said that its entrance was in the endless sea of clouds above the sky. However, no one could say for sure where the entrance was. After all, the leaders of the various clans had never entered the Purple Heaven Cave. The divine masters who were qualified to enter the Purple Heaven Cave had already died in battle. They had been killed by the Heaven Punishers. The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing was very depressed. He asked the Imperial Tutor to take charge of the situation while he flew into the sky alone and searched the sea of clouds. The Purple Heaven planet was extremely vast. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack if he wanted to find the entrance to the Purple Heaven Cave in the endless sea of clouds. Moreover, Ji Tianqing had set up 2 great god arrays at the entrance of the Purple Heaven Cave. One was a maze array, and the other was a seal array. How could the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing find it? Even if he spent a few years and finally found the entrance, he might not be able to break the great god array. 3 months passed unknowingly. 12.5 years had passed in the distorted space. Ji Tianqing had been cultivating in seclusion for so long. With the help of a large number of divine pills and origin stones, his injuries had finally healed. His divine power had recovered to its peak, and his injured divine soul had also been healed. When he ended his seclusion, Yin Yao and Ji Ku rushed over after hearing the news. The 3 of them gathered and began to discuss important matters. Yin Yao took the lead and said, "Tianqing, you were injured and urgently needed to recuperate in seclusion. We didn't ask too much. How was your trip to the Purple Heaven planet this time?" Ji Ku looked at him expectantly and asked, "Brother Tianqing, who injured you? How could they injure you so badly? It shouldn't be the Southern Conquering Marshal. He definitely doesn't have the strength to do that." Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "When I first arrived at the Purple Heaven planet, I was just in time for the Myriad Kingdom's sacred assembly. I found a way to sneak in and used a trick to disturb a continent. After that, I joined forces with the guardian divine beast of the Purple Heaven planet, the Golden Rock, and killed the Southern Conquering Marshal. Over 100 martial gods from various clans also fought with the Heaven Destroyers and perished together with them. It was not easy for us to chase away the Heaven Punishing tribe and restore peace to the Purple Heaven planet. However, in just 3 years, the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing personally led an expedition to the Purple Heaven planet." When they heard this, Ji Ku and Yin Yao frowned. Their eyes were filled with shock. The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing tribe? He was alerted. "Tianqing, you fought with the great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing tribe. Were you injured by him? That shouldn't be. The great Emperor of the Heaven Punishing tribe is very ambitious. He wants to control all 3,000 worlds. Why would he pay attention to the purple heaven planet? Moreover, the heaven-punishing tribe is in another galaxy, very far away from the purple heaven planet. Even if he knew that the southern conquering marshal was killed and rushed to the purple heaven planet to seek revenge, it shouldn't have happened so quickly. The two women were shocked and confused. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said seriously, "The great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe is very powerful. He has reached the half-step heavenly god stage. His spaceship is also a heavenly god grade. He has a LV6 true god stage elite with him. He is the imperial tutor of the heaven-punishing tribe. The reason he rushed to the purple heaven planet was not to seek revenge for the southern conquering marshal, but for the energy stone." The southern conquering marshal had already reported the news about the energy stone to the great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe. I suspect that the great emperor of the heaven-punishing tribe is working for the god behind him. He wants the energy stone at all costs. Chapter 26:17. The great emperor of heaven punisher is after the energy stones. Even the deities behind him are interested in the energy stones. Yun Yao and Ji Ke's expressions darkened. Without Ji Tianqing's explanation, they knew what it meant. If that's the case, the end of the five elements world is coming. The great emperor of heaven punisher will definitely track down the five elements world. He will do whatever it takes to get the energy stones. Ji Tianqing nodded and said calmly, "He, even I am tempted by the incredible power of the energy stones, let alone the deities from the upper realm. Any deity would not give up on the energy stones after witnessing their miraculous power. After all, the energy stones are very beneficial to heavenly gods, Sir Gods, and King of Gods." Ji Ke's heart sank. She asked worriedly, "Brother Tianqing, the five elements world is in danger now. What should we do? If the great emperor of heaven punisher leads his army here, how can the three of us stop him?" Although Yun Yao did not say anything, she had the same thought. She looked at Ji Tianqing worriedly. Ji Tianqing waved his hand, telling them not to worry. He comforted them, "The great emperor of heaven punisher doesn't know the exact location of the five elements world. It will take him at least a few years to find this place. Currently, we don't have any chance of winning. We can only try our best to increase our strength. However, there are a few things that we have to clarify as soon as possible." Yun Yao and Ji Ke asked at the same time, "What is it?" Ji Tianqing explained patiently, "First, when I was in Purple Cloud Planet, I found a problem. All the worlds are restricted by the heavenly way. It is impossible to break through to the heavenly god realm in the mortal world unless one ascends to the heavenly god realm. However, the five elements world is different. There were many deities in the ancient times. There were heavenly gods, Sir Gods, and King of Gods. The cemetery of the gods in the ruins of gods is the best proof." Hearing this, Yun Yao and Ji Ke looked at each other and realized where the problem lay. "You mean, the five elements world is not an ordinary mortal world? Big brother Tianqing, could it be that the five elements world is not restricted by the rules of the heavenly Tao?" Ji Tianqing continued, "Secondly, the source stone is a powerful god stone. It is useful to all gods, regardless of race or power attribute. If the five elements world is just an ordinary mortal world, how can it produce such a divine item like the origin stone?" Yun Yao and Ji Ke's eyes lit up, and they nodded in agreement. "That's right. The appearance of the origin stones further proves that the five elements world is not ordinary. Big brother Tianqing, there's one more thing. The five elements world has been sealed by the gods. There shouldn't be such a situation in other mortal worlds, right?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "Ku is right, only the five elements world is sealed by the gods, it is the most special. Thirdly, we discovered the source of the origin stones in the geocentric ocean. At the same time, we also found a collapsed ancient temple in the depths of the geocentric ocean. It was the cave of a certain god king, there is a large formation in it that can still be used now, leading to the outer space. Yun Yao was the most intelligent, and she immediately understood what he meant. She said in a serious tone, "So, our target is the underground. The secret of the five elements world is most likely hidden in the depths of the geocentric ocean." Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. "That's right. I came back this time to enter the geocentric ocean and solve these mysteries." After saying that, he looked deeply at Yun Yao and asked, "Yao Yao, you have inherited the memories of goddess Yaoguang. Logically speaking, Yaoguang is one of the rulers of the ancient god war. And the five elements world was sealed by the gods after the ancient god war. Think carefully, do you have any clues or suspicious points?" Yun Yao shook her head gently and said regretfully, "All these years, I have been thinking about these questions and trying to piece together and restore goddess Yaoguang's memories. However, those memories seem to have disappeared, and I have no recollection of them at all. All the memories related to goddess Yaoguang are all about cultivation. There are formations, alchemy, artifact forging, talismans, and so on. They are all related to the cultivation of the divine Tao. The only thing missing is the memories of the ancient god war." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said regretfully, "In that case, we can only investigate from the source and unravel the mystery bit by bit." The three of them made up their minds and prepared to head to the hidden dragon abyss. Before leaving, Yun Yao found Chen Chen and Yaya and told them to cultivate in peace. Ji Tianqing also told White Dragon and the three divine beasts to stay in seclusion in the God Pagoda and work hard to improve their strength. Ji Ku also sent out a few messages and gave orders to arrange the administrative affairs of the God Nation. The three of them understood that this trip to the depths of the geocentric ocean would take a long time, so they had to make arrangements first. A few hours later, the three of them left the God Pagoda and rushed to Tianqing's God Nation. In just 2 days, they arrived at the north of Tianqing's God Nation and entered the hidden dragon abyss. Passing through the pitch-black abyss, the three of them quickly entered the sea of lava and arrived at the territory of the human race in the geocentric ocean. Even though more than 10 years had passed. After the human race in the geocentric ocean submitted, they did not dare to have any disloyalty and had been working diligently. They followed Ji Ku's orders and mined the origin stone mine according to a plan. Every year, they had to hand over a fixed amount of origin stones. As a result, the pressure on the human race in the geocentric ocean was greatly reduced. They did not have to work too hard, but they had to complete their tasks on time. When Ji Tianqing and the other two arrived at the geocentric palace, Patriarch Baha brought the high priest and hurriedly came to greet them with a very respectful attitude. After so many years, the divine soul imprints in their bodies had not been removed, and they were still loyal to Ji Tianqing. Unless Ji Tianqing took the initiative to remove the imprints, or died. Otherwise, they would forever be Ji Tianqing's slaves. Ji Tianqing was very satisfied with Patriarch Baha's performance. After a few words of praise and encouragement, he left with Yun Yao and Ji Ku. Next, the three of them crossed hundreds of thousands of miles of the sea of lava and arrived at the origin stone mine. The mysterious black hole was located in the origin stone mine. Ji Tianqing and the other two unlocked the black hole's sealing array and successfully entered the black hole. Standing in the empty cave, the three of them looked at the huge, majestic ancient temple in front of them with expectant eyes. Deep underground, there is an ancient divine king's cave residence. I wonder what the five elements world of the primordial age was like. Yun Yao murmured as a look of longing flashed across her eyes. Ji Tianqing smiled and said expectantly, "Let's explore this ancient temple again. I hope we can gain something." Ji Ku was stunned for a moment and said in a complicated tone, "Brother Tianqing, I remember that the last time I came here, Little White suddenly came up with a hypothesis. He said, is there such a possibility? In the ancient era, the ancient five elements world was the same as the divine realm and the dragon realm. They were all eternal primary worlds. However, due to some unknown reasons, this world had fallen to become a mortal world. At that time, when Little White said this, we thought it was ridiculous. Now that I think about it, Little White's words are not without reason. Chapter 26:18. The three of them were looking forward to the true identity of the Five Elements world. The reason he came to explore the ancient shrine again was to unravel the mystery. Ji Tianqing led the way across the black stone plaza and walked toward the majestic ancient shrine. The shrine's two black stone doors were originally sealed by a divine array. However, Ji Tianqing had already cracked it the last time he came. He pushed open the huge and heavy stone door and led Yun Yao and Ji Ku into the main hall on the first floor. The main hall was pitch black, and the ground was covered with dust. There were gravel and collapsed statue fragments scattered all around. Ji Tianqing walked toward the corner of the main hall and explained, "The last time we came, we already searched the first and second floors of the shrine. Unfortunately, we were teleported to the starry sky by the divine array on the second floor. This time, we are going to explore the third floor of the shrine." Yun Yao and Ji Kun nodded to show that they understood. The three of them entered the secret door in the corner of the main hall and passed through a pitch-black tunnel to reach the second floor of the shrine. The layout of the second floor was the same as the first floor. In the middle was a spacious main hall. There were several tunnels and more than 20 rooms connected to it. In the middle of the main hall was a pitch-black stone platform that was 100 meters tall. The stone platform was engraved with array patterns. Thousands of ravines formed a divine array. Last time, Ji Tianqing and the others had been teleported to the starry sky by that divine array. This time, Ji Tianqing did not plan to activate the divine array. He separated from Yun Yao and Ji Ku and began to search the rooms around the main hall. Most of the rooms were tightly shut. They were like secret rooms with only one door and no windows. However, the doors of a few rooms were open. The rooms were in a mess, filled with ashes and gravel. There were also 2 rooms that were sealed with divine arrays. After tens of thousands of years, the divine arrays had long been weakened and did not have much power. Ji Tianqing and the others used 4 hours to search more than 20 rooms. After gathering, the three of them discussed the results of their search. "I've searched 9 rooms. There's nothing valuable. Most of the rooms were secret rooms. They were covered in dust and only had some ancient carvings and words. Even the secret room with the divine formation seal didn't have any furnishings, only some jade fragments that had been weathered into dust. I've searched 7 rooms, but I didn't find any valuable clues. Perhaps those secret rooms had once stored cultivation resources and divine stones. However, I only found a lot of gravel and piles of ashes. The results of my search are basically the same as yours. Too much time has passed, and this primordial divine temple went through a great battle. Many traces and clues have disappeared." The three of them were somewhat disappointed and could only leave the second level. In the left corner of the hall, Ji Tianqing found a secret door. He used the divine eye secret technique to see the divine array on the secret door. It only took him a few hours to crack it. After all, the formation on the secret door was only a heavenly god-tier formation. After opening the secret door, the three of them passed through a pitch-black tunnel and arrived at the 3rd floor of the temple. The layout of the 3rd floor was more or less the same as the first 2 floors. In the middle was a spacious and dark hall. There were 4 tunnels and 18 secret rooms around it. In the middle of the hall, there was still a high platform that was engraved with mysterious runes of formations. Yun Yao wanted to study the divine array, but she was stopped by Ji Tianqing. "Don't worry about that divine array. It might be another teleportation formation that can send us to the void. Let's look at the secret rooms around us and see if we can find any clues." Yun Yao nodded to show that she understood. The three of them split up and searched the secret rooms around the hall. Every secret room had a stone door that was tightly shut and sealed by a divine array. Ji Tianqing chose a secret room and used the divine eye secret technique to carefully observe the formation on the stone door. After half an hour, when he saw the structure of the formation clearly, he immediately frowned. This was because the sealing formation on the stone door had tens of millions of meridians. It could generate 200 million variations. It was extremely complicated. This is not a heavenly god formation. It's clearly a godlord formation. The stone door is only a few feet tall, but the person who cast it can set up a godlord formation here. His strength and formation Dao attainments must be that of a peak godlord. He might even be a god king. Back then, Kenshin was able to set up a god king formation in a palm-sized jade slip with his strength at the god king realm. That formation had 300 million meridians and could generate 900 million variations. However, that was when he was at his peak. The current Ji Tianqing only had the strength of a true god. It was impossible for him to complete it. Even the chances of cracking the godlord formation on the stone door were slim. Yun Yao and Ji Ku also observed the two secret rooms. They noticed something and reminded him. Tianqing, the sealing formation in my secret room doesn't seem to be at the heavenly god formation. Brother Tianqing, the formation in my secret room is actually at the godlord formation. In the 5 years that Ji Tianqing went to Purple Cloud Planet, the two of them had been in seclusion in the Divine Pagoda for more than 200 years. The red flame that was close to being transparent was the genuine Earth Core Divine Flame. Regardless of whether it was a martial god or a void god artifact, once they were enveloped by the Earth Core Divine Flame, they would be incinerated into ashes. Fortunately, Ji Tianqing and the other two were true gods. With the protection of their divine power, they could withstand the power of the Earth Core Divine Flame. Ji Tianqing looked at the source stone mine beneath his feet and then at the magma ocean around them. He frowned and said, "This place seems to be closer to the Earth's core. The Earth Core Divine Flame has already appeared. Even the human tribe in the Earth's core cave can't survive here. They'll definitely be incinerated into ashes." Yun Yao released her divine consciousness and extended it 10,000 miles above her head. After a while, she said in surprise, "The primordial shrine that we were in earlier was 2,000 miles underground. This magma ocean is more than 10,000 miles above the ground." More than 10,000 miles. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and released his divine consciousness to look up as well. After a while, there was a change in his expression. He said in surprise, "My divine consciousness can extend 30,000 miles, but it can barely touch the ground. In other words, we're now 30,000 miles underground. The teleportation formation in the primordial shrine has sent us even deeper underground." At this moment, Ji Ku suddenly pointed at the center of the source stone mine and said in surprise, "Big brother Tianqing, big senior sister, look. There's a shrine there too." Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao quickly turned around. Indeed, there was a black stone palace that was 10,000 feet tall in the center of the source stone mine. The palace occupied 10 miles and was unusually majestic. Under the illumination of the divine flames, the ancient black shrine exuded a mysterious and majestic aura. "Let's go and take a look." Ji Tianqing led Yun Yao and Ji Ku to the black shrine's door. The three of them observed it carefully for a long time and gradually found some clues. This was also a shrine from the primordial era. It should be the cave abode of some god. It had a history of at least 40,000 years. The black stone door of the shrine was sealed by a monarch-grade divine formation. However, too much time had passed, and the divine formation had been continuously eroded by the Earth Core Divine Flame. Its power had long been weakened to the extreme. There were many formation patterns and a simple flame symbol carved on the door of the shrine. Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao, and Ji Ku worked together and used only 2 months to crack the monarch-grade divine formation on the door. Then, the three of them entered the shrine to investigate the situation inside. The first floor was the main hall. It was pitch black and dead silent. There was a lot of dust on the ground, and a lot of gravel and ashes were scattered everywhere. The second floor was also the main hall. There were many rooms around it. Fortunately, there were no formations in those rooms. Or perhaps, there used to be formations, but they had been destroyed over the years. A day later, the three of them searched the entire shrine. They didn't find any divine weapons, divine pills, or secret techniques of the shrine. They also didn't find any valuable clues. The only thing that caught their attention was that simple and special flame symbol. It appeared more than 10 times in the shrine. The three of them came with high hopes, but they could only return with disappointment. Through the teleportation formation on the third floor of the shrine, they returned to the primordial shrine 2,000 miles above ground. They were still in the same secret room. Strange, why is this primordial divine temple connected to a divine temple 30,000 miles underground? Ji Tianqing frowned in thought. He felt that something was strange. Yunyao persuaded, there are still 17 secret rooms here. Let's check them one by one. Maybe we can find some clues. Then, the three of them went to the second secret room. They spent 2 months to crack the monarch-grade divine formation on the stone door. After opening the stone door, they saw a pitch-black stone tablet in the middle of the secret room. It was another stone tablet. Ji Tianqing injected his star divine power into the stone tablet. Swoosh! The stone tablet lit up with starlight and swallowed the three of them. In the next instant, the three of them appeared 30,000 miles underground and landed in a spacious cave. In the grayish-brown cave, there was also an ancient and majestic shrine. It was also made of source stones. The three of them stayed in the shrine for more than a month and searched the entire shrine. They didn't find much. They only saw a strange sword symbol in the shrine. After leaving the shrine, the three of them returned to their original spot and continued to search the other secret rooms. In the next half a year, they opened 3 more secret rooms. The results were the same. Every secret room had a stone tablet, which was connected to a godly palace 30,000 miles underground. Chapter 26-20. We spent more than a year to open 5 secret chambers and entered 5 primordial shrines. Every shrine is different. It is obvious that they are the abodes of different gods. However, these shrines have one thing in common, and that is, they are all 30,000 miles underground. The three of them gathered together as Ji Tianqing analyzed calmly. We don't need to waste time investigating the remaining 13 secret chambers. If I'm not mistaken, there is a stone tablet in each of the secret chambers that leads to the 13 primordial shrines. Yunyao nodded slightly and analyzed, the primordial shrine beneath our feet can be seen as a teleportation hub that connects to the 18 shrines underground. This magical relationship is similar to that of a ruler and his subjects. This shrine is the abode of the ruler, while the 18 shrines are the residences of the subjects. In the first shrine that we searched, there were many flaming symbols. Let's call that shrine the fire shrine for now. In the second shrine, there were many sword-shaped symbols. Let's call it the Kenshin shrine. In the third shrine, there were many tomahawk symbols. Let's call it the tomahawk shrine. Ji nodded and analyzed, this makes sense. This shrine is the abode of the king of gods. There are 18 Sur gods under him, each with their own strengths. This proves that there were indeed many powerful gods in the 5 elements world during the primordial era. Moreover, the abodes of the king of gods and the 18 Sur gods were all built with dawn stones. From this, we can infer that there was an abundance of dawn stones underground during the primordial era. However, I still feel that something is strange. Why don't these gods live on the ground or in the sky? Why do they hide underground? Ji Tianqing pointed at the shrine beneath his feet and smiled, it is most likely because of the dawn stones. This is the source of their power. After saying that, he walked towards the high platform in the middle of the shrine. There is no need to investigate the 18 secret chambers anymore. Let's take a look at the teleportation divine array. As he said that, he stepped onto the high platform. He waved his palm and injected star divine power into the patterns of the divine array. Swoosh! The surging star divine power caused the patterns of the divine array to light up with starlight. It overflowed with powerful divine power waves. Soon, the ancient divine formation was activated, releasing dazzling starlight. Ji Tianqing, Yin Yao, and Ji Ku were enveloped by the starlight and disappeared on the spot. Shwa! In the next moment, the three of them appeared on a 10-mile-long black stone disc. This disc was forged from origin stones. It had a radius of 5 kilometers and was 1,000 feet thick. Its surface was covered in mottled scars. Now, we have found the cave abode of an ancient god and a large number of origin stones tens of thousands of miles underground. Our conjecture has basically been confirmed. What's the purpose of going deeper into the ground? Ji Ku had the same thought and said, Big Brother Tianqing, we are 80% sure that the five elements world is not restricted by the heavenly Tao's rules and was once one of the main worlds. If we go further underground, it will be even more dangerous. Even if we find an ancient god palace in the depths of the Earth's core, we might not be able to find any clues. Too much time has passed and most of the clues have disappeared. Do you think we should continue to explore underground? The abyss under their feet seemed to have no bottom. It also seemed to lead to a dark and terrifying hell. Yun Yao and Ji Ku instinctively resisted this. Ji Tianqing understood this and explained patiently, although we have guessed the answer, we have not found any concrete evidence. Secondly, we have not found anything yet. In our current state, if the heaven-punishing emperor really comes, how are we going to stop him? Even if the chances are slim, I cannot give up. I can only continue to explore underground. I hope that the heavens will bless me and allow me to obtain some kind of opportunity that will allow me to quickly increase my strength. He paused for a moment and then said, how about this? You two return to Shenwu continent, and I will explore the abyss on my own. Before he could finish, Yun Yao and Ji Ku shook their heads and rejected this suggestion. Of course not. We want to go with you and face the dangers together. Big Brother Tianqing, we are not afraid. We just don't want to waste our efforts. Since you have made up your mind, we will do our best to help you. Ji Tianqing tried to persuade them, but Yun Yao and Ji Ku were stubborn and insisted on going with him. Thus, the three used their divine power to protect their bodies and continued to explore underground. Chapter 26-21. The bottomless pit was indeed bottomless. Ji Tianqing and the other two spent several hours to explore more than 20,000 kilometers, but they still hadn't reached the bottom of the abyss. Just as they had guessed, this bottomless pit led to the Earth's core. As the trio got closer to the Earth's core, the pressure on them increased. The power of the Earth core divine flame was also increasing. Their divine power shields were quickly melted by the divine flames. They had to expend large amounts of divine power to resist the corrosion of the Earth core divine flame and protect themselves. Finally, they had dived 30,000 kilometers. They were at least 90,000 kilometers from the surface. This was a mysterious and dangerous zone that no one had ever reached since the ancient era. Another pitch-black origin stone disk appeared in front of the trio and floated quietly in the divine flames. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing and the other two landed on the disk that was 10 miles wide and looked around. The dark red earth core divine flame was still everywhere. The pitch-black cave walls were smooth and flat. They could vaguely see traces of excavation. There is an ancient divine temple 3,000 kilometers underground. There is a divine lord cave 30,000 kilometers underground. There is a bottomless pit and a origin stone disk 60,000 kilometers underground. 90,000 miles underground, there is also a similar disk. Ji Tianqing muttered to himself as he furrowed his brows and pondered. Yun Yao observed for a moment and said, "This disk is not different from the 160,000 kilometers underground. The only difference is that the earth core divine flame here is more violent and powerful." Ji Ku hesitated and suggested, "Brother Tianqing, senior sister, let's not go too deep underground. Let's study these two disks first." Yun Yao nodded in agreement. Ji Tianqing was also curious. He waved his hand and sent a vast amount of star power into the disk under his feet. Swoosh! Dark silver star divine power flowed through the formation's cracks and spread rapidly. Not long after, the disk with a radius of 5 kilometers was filled. The ancient divine formation was activated and lit up with brilliant starlight. Swoosh! A burst of dazzling starlight flashed. 36 silver light gates appeared out of thin air on the disk, forming a circle around the edge of the disk. There is indeed a mystery behind this. Ji Tianqing's eyes lit up, revealing a look of joy. Yun Yao and Ji Ku were also rather excited as they observed the 36 light doors with burning eyes. These light gates seem to be teleportation gates. I wonder where these portals lead to. As the two of them discussed, they revealed curious expressions. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and walked towards a light door. "Wait for me here. I'll go take a look myself. If anything happens, I will use the Origin Stone Jade slip to contact you." Yun Yao and Ji Ku were worried and wanted to explore with him. But since he insisted, the two women could only agree. Shwa! Ji Tianqing stepped into the 10-meter-tall light gate, and his figure immediately disappeared. Yun Yao and Ji Ku stood on the circular plate and waited patiently while circulating their energy to resist the corrosion of the Earth's core divine flame. Time passed quietly. The two of them were filled with worry and felt that time was passing very slowly. Unknowingly, 2 hours had passed. Ji Tianqing still did not appear, nor did he send a message. Yun Yao and Ji Ku gradually could not suppress the worry in their hearts. They wanted to send a message to Ji Tianqing to ask about the situation. Just as the two of them were filled with worry and hesitation, the light gate suddenly lit up. Shwa! With a flash of silver light, Ji Tianqing passed through the light gate and returned to the circular plate. Seeing that he had returned safely, Yun Yao and Ji Ku heaved a sigh of relief. They quickly went up to him and asked about the results. "Tianqing, are you hurt? Brother Tianqing, are you okay? Did you find out the results?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a smile, "This light gate is indeed a teleportation gate. It sent me to an ancient shrine. That ancient shrine is also the cave abode of a divine lord. It's on the same level as us, 90,000 miles below ground." Yun Yao and Ji Ku nodded and revealed an expression of understanding. "It's just as I guessed. Brother Tianqing, did you find any clues in the shrine?" "Not really." Ji Tianqing shook his head and said with disappointment, "The shrine is too old. There are only ashes, dust, and some gravel left inside." After that, Ji Tianqing stepped into the second light gate. This time, he disappeared again for 2 hours before returning. When he returned to the circular plate, he did not wait for Yun Yao and Ji Ku to ask and took the initiative to say, "This light gate also leads to an ancient shrine, which is the cave abode of a divine lord. It's also 90,000 miles below ground. If I'm not wrong, this circular plate is equivalent to a transit station. Those 36 light gates are connected to the cave abodes of 36 divine lords." Yun Yao's eyes lit up and said, "If that's the case, the circular plate 60,000 miles below ground is also a transit station. It's connected to many divine lords' cave abodes." Ji Ku frowned and said with a strange expression, "The divine lords of the ancient era are actually digging underground like rats. They're even connected to each other. They live in groups. Brother Tianqing, have we barged into a rat's nest?" No, we've barged into a divine king's palace. There are so many divine lords' cave abodes here. In the divine world, divine monarch and divine king realm experts aren't easily seen. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said in a serious tone, the divine realm is vast and boundless. There are hundreds of regions, and each region has hundreds of divine kingdoms. Each divine kingdom ruled over billions of deities. Only a divine lord powerhouse could control a divine kingdom. As for divine kings, there are only a few in each region. From this, it can be seen how rare divine lords and divine kings are. He pointed at the 36 light gates on the circular plate and said with a frown, but here, we found a divine king's palace. Following the clues, we found several dozen divine lords' palaces. One can imagine that this region should be that divine king's territory. If the five elements world was once the same as the divine realm, both being eternal primary worlds, then, under the five elements world's underground, there must be countless ancient divine palaces hidden. Hearing up to here, Yunyao could not resist opening her mouth to ask, Tianqing, then are we still continuing to explore? Ji Tianqing nodded his head without hesitation and said, of course. I want to see how many divine lords there are under this divine king powerhouse's command. Ji Ku frowned and said, but, Brother Tianqing, this place is 90,000 miles underground. The power of the earth core divine flame is already comparable to a third-level true God realm. If we continue to go down, the power of the earth core divine flame will become even stronger. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and consoled, no matter, we can't resist it. But the sword of burial of heaven doesn't fear being burned by the divine flames. As he said, he took out the sword of burial of heaven and brought Yunyao and Ji Ku into the sword world. After that, the sword of burial of heaven passed through the surging divine flames and continued flying downwards. Chapter 26-22. The burial of heaven sword was forged from dawn stones. In terms of material and grade, it was comparable to a heavenly god artifact. A true god-level earth core divine flame couldn't hurt it at all. In a short 4 hours, it had dived 30,000 miles and landed on a pitch-black round plate. In the abyss 20,000 miles underground, there was also a round plate made from dawn stones. Another transit station that connects to many Sir God's cave dwellings. This thought flashed across the minds of Ji Tianqing and the other two at the same time. Swoosh! A white light flashed. Ji Tianqing left the world and the sword and landed on the round plate to observe carefully. The earth core divine flame here was several times more powerful, comparable to a level 6 true god's divine power. Even Ji Tianqing had to use all his strength to resist the burning of the divine flame. He couldn't stay here for long. Even if he stood on the round plate and did nothing, it was equivalent to fighting with a level 6 true god expert. His divine power was draining rapidly. He didn't waste any time and hurriedly released his star divine power and injected it into the round plate. Swoosh! The round plate lit up with starlight and the ancient divine array was activated very quickly. Swoosh! Following a burst of dazzling starlight, 73 dazzling light gates appeared on the round plate. Among them, 72 light gates were only 30 feet tall. They were distributed at the edge of the round plate and formed a circle. In the middle of the round plate, there was a light gate that was 100 feet tall standing alone. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and a look of surprise flashed across his eyes. There are 73 teleportation gates in this transit station. According to previous experience, the 72 light gates should be connected to 72 Sir God's halls. There are 18 Sir God's halls 30,000 miles underground and 36 Sir God's halls 90,000 miles underground. There are 72 here. How many Sir Gods are there under this God King's command? Isn't this too exaggerated? Back then, he was the King of Gods, a peak God King, one of the strongest experts in the divine world. Even so, there were only 30 to 50 Sir Gods under his command. As for this ancient godly king's subordinates, they had already discovered that there were more than 100 godly lords. How could Ji Tianqing not be shocked? He even couldn't help but guess exactly how formidable that ancient god king was. At this moment, Yun Yao reminded him via voice transmission, "Tianqing, this place is dangerous. Don't stay here for too long." Ji Tianqing hurriedly collected his thoughts and replied via voice transmission, "I understand. I won't waste my time exploring the 72 doors of light. However, the light gate in the middle of the disk is larger than the other light gates. It's obviously special. I have to go take a look." As he spoke, he held the sword of burial of heaven and flew towards the tall door of light. Shwa! When he arrived at the 30-meter tall door of light, he stepped in without hesitation. With a flash of silver light, he and the sword of burial of heaven were swallowed up. In the next instant, he crossed tens of thousands of miles of space and appeared in an ocean of lava. Boom! The boundless earth core divine flame instantly engulfed Ji Tianqing. The power of the earth's core divine flame here was more than 10 times stronger than before. Its color had also turned from red to purple, becoming a purple flame. Kacha, Ji Tianqing's divine light shield was burned by the purple divine flame and immediately cracked. It quickly melted and dissipated. *T. It's the earth's core divine flame of the heavenly god Tyr. He cursed in his heart as this thought flashed through his mind. His divine light shield was about to dissipate and his divine body was about to be destroyed by the earth's core divine flame. At this critical moment, he did not hesitate to enter the sword of burial of heaven. Shwa! After entering the sword's world, he escaped the disaster and the pressure on him was greatly reduced. Yin Yao and Ji Ku quickly flew over and asked about the situation with concern. "Tianqing, are you hurt? Big brother Tianqing, what's the situation outside?" Ji Tianqing waved his hand, indicating that they did not need to worry. He explained, "I didn't expect the earth's core divine flame here to reach the heavenly god Tyr. According to my estimation, this place is at least 150,000 miles away from the surface. With our strength, if we don't have the protection of a heavenly god weapon, we won't be able to move around here. We'll be burned to ashes very quickly." Yin Yao and Ji Ku were shocked and said in disbelief, "There's actually such a terrifying place in the Five Elements world. Now we can be sure that the Five Elements world was definitely the main world in the past." At this moment, the burial of heaven's voice rang in Ji Tianqing's mind. This should be 180,000 miles underground. The bottomless pit ends here. Further down is the true core of the earth. There are no rocks here. It's all magma. We've finally reached the bottom of the abyss. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and used his divine sense to merge with the burial of heaven. He used the burial of heaven as his eyes to observe the situation around him. He saw a pitch-black dawn stone mine below. It had a radius of 900 miles. Surrounding the dawn stone mine was a boundless sea of magma with purple divine flames rising into the sky. In the entire sea of magma, there was nothing other than the dawn stone mine. Above the dawn stone mine was the cave entrance that had a radius of 100 miles. It was the mysterious bottomless pit. It's really the end. Ji Tianqing muttered and used his divine sense to search the dawn stone mine. Soon, he discovered that in the middle of the dawn stone mine, on the highest slope, there was a majestic and ancient temple. Another divine palace. Ji Tianqing's eyes lit up, revealing a look of anticipation. He controlled the burial of heaven and hurriedly flew toward the temple. Swoosh! The burial of heaven passed through the purple flames and quickly flew to the entrance of the ancient temple. The ancient temple was 10,000 feet tall and took up an area of 30 miles. It was exceptionally majestic and magnificent. Two black stone doors that were 1,000 feet tall exuded a majestic aura that could suppress heaven and earth. It was ancient and mysterious. Ji Tianqing thought to himself. Judging from the size and aura of this temple, it should be a deity king's palace. Moreover, it was even more sacred and solemn than the deity king's palace that was 3,000 miles underground. If the deity king's palace that we found at the beginning was only a deity king's residence, then this temple in front of us must be the deity king's abode and lair. Ji Tianqing muttered to himself, his heart filled with anticipation and excitement. However, when he saw the sealing array on the black stone doors, he immediately withered. It was as if a basin of cold water had been poured over his head. His excitement and anticipation vanished like smoke in thin air. A deity king level sealing array. Ha! I didn't guess wrongly. This is the deity king's lair. Ji Tianqing laughed bitterly, somewhat helpless. Yin Yao and Ji Ke also frowned, a strong sense of helplessness welling up in their hearts. Even if it was a damaged deity king level array, the three of them had to work together and use all their strength to crack it. As for a deity king level array, don't even think about it. There was no chance of cracking it at all. What do we do? We finally found the source. We can't return empty-handed, right? It's a deity king level array. Unless Big Brother Tianqing recovers to his peak, then we can crack it. Yin Yao and Ji Ke discussed, both helpless and unwilling. Ji Tianqing refused to give up. He still used his God's Eye secret technique to carefully observe the deity king level array on the stone doors. The three of them were silent for a long time. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.